Hello, everyone. Hopefully, you can see us and hear us. I'm testing new technology. This is the first time I've tried to bring a person on doing straight through OBS.
Right.
Everything crashed just as I hit go live, so we had to reload everything really quickly. It's an adventure. But I am once again joined by my dear friend, good Sir Mark Reed. How are you today?
Hello. I'm good. I've just gotten up. I've got my coffee. I was watching Nick's for a while just before we started. Really interesting stuff. So yeah, everything's pretty good. Pretty good. How are you?
Excellent. Aside from the technological issues and the medical issues and I mean, relatively okay. I had a nice day with my son, and yeah, and we're doing our thing, which is one of our favorite things to do.
Yeah, and I'm really excited for good old Low Bar Bill. I don't know. It's sort of I find him entertaining, if nothing else. Like I don't agree with his stuff. I don't agree with much, but he's entertaining at least.
Oh yeah, I mean, so as many of you may recall, earlier this year I pirated a list of must-watch debates from Cam over at Capturing Christianity. This is one of them, and I haven't watched it, but it should be good.
All right,
it should be good. I'm excited. So, chat, do let me know if there's glitches, if there's audio issues, if something gets doubled, because we're testing everything. So keep me informed.
Yeah.
All right, so let's switch over. Here we've got the hey, it loaded. Good. I wasn't sure it was gonna.
Not good enough.
I tested it earlier, but the system crashed. So. Oh my goodness. Okay, now where is the window? Here it is. Okay. The moderator person is going to come on. This is raw. I haven't edited any of it, so the moderator is going to give us the rules, and then they're going to go.
Okay.
This evening's participants, then, are professionally trained.
1.25?
It is at 1.25, yes.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, and also, this is from, like, 1996.
I'm not sure I can listen to... Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure I can listen to Bill in real time. I'm not sure I can do that. I don't know who Antony Flew is.
Oh, yeah, he's, well, he'll say who he is, but he's a doctorate in a different field. He was a very famous atheist, but he became even more famous when, towards the end of his life, he converted to Christianity. A lot of people say that he was taken advantage of, and people, like, force-fed him ideas. Like, his last book is something along the lines of discovering God, but it was ghost-written. So there's controversy. But...
Oof.
At the time he's engaging Craig, he was still very much an atheist.
Right.
Well-published scholars. They know that either God exists or else God does not exist. They disagree about where the truth of that matter lies. Our debate format is simple. There are 4 rounds of descending length. 2 20-minute opening statements, 2 12-minute comments on the opening statements, 2 8-minute responses to the previous remarks, and 2 5-minute closing statements. After a very brief break, we will begin a half-hour session of questions and answers.
Now, that is not on this video. As we usually do, we don't usually bother with the Q&A unless there's something interesting, but this isn't even on the video. I didn't have to cut it off.
Yeah.
There's no need for me to make any further introductions, and Professor Craig and Flew will proceed through the 4 phases of their remarks without any interruption. Then I will formally close the debate and shortly thereafter open the question and answer session. It is then my genuine pleasure to introduce Professor William Craig and Professor Antony Flew. As is traditional, the affirmative side starts. Let the debate begin.
Ta-da! I do appreciate a speedy introduction. Lay out the rules, say who's talking, get the hell out of the way.
Yeah, I think those ones where they have a gusset between them, and it's like, yeah, nobody really cares about what the moderator thinks about, the subject. Like, that's not why you're there. Uh, they have them a lot in Christian ones. I don't know why.
Part of the show, I guess. I don't know. It makes me think of a short video I saw the other day when I was getting videos ready for one of my, like, live review multi-stream things that I've been doing lately. And I came across this, like, 4-minute video from Standing for Truth. Donnie was talking about how they do the formal debates on Standing for Truth. And I'm like,
they're not formal. What are you
really?
talking about, Donnie?
Really? Like, okay, Donnie, whatever you say.
Do you know where the timekeeper is? Right in front. Good evening. I want to begin by expressing my thanks for the privilege of participating in this event on the 50th anniversary of the famous Copleston-Russell debate.
Point on that. Copleston-Russell is a famous debate. It's even older than 50 years now, of course. It's 75-ish, give or take. It's also on the list I stole from Cam, but it's so old, it was a radio debate. So we have pictures of the speakers, but we don't see the speakers. So let us know, folks, in the comments, in the chat, wherever, if you'd like to see us cover that debate, or because there's nothing to look at except our pretty faces, if maybe we skip that one. Let us know your thoughts.
And it's a special honor to be sharing the platform tonight with Professor Flew. Now, in order to determine rationally whether or not God exists, we need to conduct our inquiry according to the basic rules of logic and ask ourselves two fundamental questions. Number one, are there good reasons to think that God exists? And number two, are there good reasons to think that he does not?
He's made it into his first words of the opening, and he's already trying to shift the burden.
Yeah. Are there good reasons to think there's not? Well, a simple lack of evidence is a good reason to think there's not, like anything that lacks evidence. For instance, this is the thing, you can't really go down this route of show me evidence something doesn't exist. For basic things, a lack of evidence can be evidence that something doesn't exist when you would expect to find it. But when you're sort of saying, hey, this being hides itself so you wouldn't expect to find evidence, there's literally no difference between a God hiding itself and a God that just doesn't exist at all. There's no difference between it. So, yeah, absolutely shifting the burden of proof. You're absolutely right, Ember. Absolutely.
Yeah, more properly phrased, if we were going to allow this sort of thing, would be it's on Bill to provide evidence for why no other gods meet the same criteria as his God, or why we shouldn't believe it's Allah instead of Yahweh, or Vishnu instead of Yahweh, or all of them. Who knows? Once you're going to say you can't prove me wrong, then all of them are in play.
Right.
Now, with respect to that second question, I'll leave it up to Dr.
everything else. As well as everything else that lacks evidence, like aliens and Bigfoot, and if you.
Yes.
But this is the thing, So he's called Low Bill Bar because once he famously said, "If you can't meet the epistemic bar, just lower that epistemic bar." So epistemology is belief. So he's saying if you can't find enough evidence to justify your belief in something, just lower your standards down to accept weak evidence or circumstantial or whatever evidence you can. And that is just, he's very selective of what he does that for.
Very special plea. It's only his thing. Everything else, we need a very high standard to believe in. Ay.
To present the reasons why he thinks that God does not exist. But notice that although atheist philosophers...
See, that always bugs me. That isn't the argument. Like, some of us can argue we actively believe Bill's God does not exist. But that's not the same as saying we don't believe. Like, we're not saying it doesn't exist. We're saying we're not convinced. It's a very different thing. And hello, people from In Time. Welcome, welcome. Good to see you. Nick.
Yeah.
I'm sure you were rocking today. I was getting the show ready, but I'm sure you were rocking today.
Oh, I was watching. He was doing a really big thing on Epstein and stuff, the Epstein files, and MAGA's meltdown over it, and just all of that kind of stuff, which was very, very interesting. And yeah, In Time, fantastic, and welcome to all of you.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, Bill, bad Bill.
Bad Bill. Oh, that should be a meme.
Yeah, I was going to make a point. I've lost it. I can't remember my point that I was going to make. But anyway, go on.
All right.
have tried for centuries to disprove the existence of God, no one's ever been able to come up with a successful argument. So rather than the...
No one? Really? No one?
No one.
Are you sure about that, Bill? I mean, again, this is from years ago, but like... Every single atheist and secular creator on YouTube comes up with a sound and valid argument about why his God specifically is not real within their first 6 months in the community. And many of them are wildly different.
Yeah. Oh, that's what I meant to say. Oh, he's using the word atheist not in the way we would use it. He's using the word atheist in philosophy of religion, which says that you believe there is no God, not just that you don't believe there is a God. If that makes sense.
It does. It's hair splitting, its definition stuff. I mean, I still go with the ancient definition because I like it better of not having a God personally. Like in ancient Greece, you could be an atheist and still be convinced all the other gods are real. Like, maybe you used to worship Poseidon, but something happened in the church and you no longer worship Poseidon. Now you don't have a God. You are without a God, but you still say the gods are real, you know? It's just without a God. That's all it means.
Yes, but it depends on how he's using it.
Yeah, which is why he should define. Yeah.
Yeah, but he's coming from sort of the philosophy of religion, which is sort of the axiomatic accepted use of it is a certain use, and that's the one that he's using.
Mm-hmm. Maybe I'll let that one slide for now. I think Aunt Jer has the right of it. Aunt Jer says, I worship pans.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. I mean, at least...
I like homemade stores, yeah.
Yeah. We can be sure they exist to the extent of the limit of our senses.
Mm-hmm.
Attack straw men at this point. I'll just wait to hear Dr. Flew's answer to the following question. What good arguments are there to show that God does not exist? Let's look then at the first question. Are there good reasons to think that God exists? Tonight, I'm going to present 5 reasons why I think theism is more plausibly true than atheism. So
we're already shifting from Christianity to theism. Mm-hmm. And we've seen this with Craig before. Right. He doesn't like to defend what he believes. He wants a much broader base, a mott from which to exceed his Bailey.
Yes.
Whole books have been written on each of these, so I can only present here a brief sketch of each argument and then go into more detail as Dr. Flew responds to them. These reasons are independent of one another, and taken together, they constitute a powerful cumulative case for the existence of God. Number one, then.
Oh, his cumulative case, yeah. Mm-hmm. Like, so we would never do this in any other circumstance. Say, hey, because we've got a mountain of really bad evidence, that makes good evidence. Like, no, it doesn't. If you have a lot of different reasons that are not good, it's still not good. Like you can't just say, hey, overall, this cumulative case, this if you take it all together, it's the same as circumstantial evidence. It can look very compelling, but it does not have that knockout blow that you want it to.
Yeah, I was just thinking of circumstantial evidence, the way J. Warner Wallace, the cold case Christianity guy who says, I'm a cop and I use cop skills to determine Jesus is real. If you brought the same kind of evidence into a court, it's so bad. It's like saying, so we did the blood type. We did a blood type on the Shroud of Turin, which is made of paint. We know that from chemical analysis. But we did a blood type on the paint, and it came back as AB negative, which is what happens when you don't get a blood type. You could blood type water, and it'll come up as AB negative. And so we blood typed the paint, and it's AB negative. And we know somehow that Jesus was AB negative, therefore, this is Jesus's blood. It's the weakest freaking evidence.
Origin of the universe. Have you ever asked yourself where the universe came from? Why anything at all exists instead of just nothing? Typically, atheists have said that the universe is just eternal and uncaused. As Russell remarked to Copleston,
he just said, let's stay away from Strawman, and then goes right for Strawman.
Yeah. I don't like, eternal is a very weird word to use. It doesn't really fit with our conceptions of time and B theory of time, which is what most physicists subscribe to. So I don't know why sort of, most people say, hey, I don't know if the universe is eternal. We don't know. But I've often used this word before to reframe it, like before the Big Bang. Even before the Big Bang makes no sense, because if space-time started at the Big Bang, before is a nonsensical term. But like an atemporal state, like something where there is no time, is not the same as eternal, right? Like eternal basically means that there's a steady state of time and it goes back forever. That's not what atemporal means. It means that time does not exist at all. So it's both kind of eternal and instantaneous. So our minds aren't really well suited to thinking about this stuff, but he sort of comes from this eternal thing, that time is this steady, like sort of ticking that will go back forever. That's his idea of eternal, but we know that's not how time, or space-time is more accurate to describe it. We know that's not how that behaves, that it can stretch and it can sort of be squeezed, and it has a number of properties that suggest that it isn't this static thing that he's describing right here. So yeah, Strawman not only of what atheists think of the universe and time in general, I guess.
Or a misunderstanding, because physics isn't his field. He's philosophy of religion guy, that sort of thing. Or there's a bunch of different ways this could go horribly, horribly wrong. Oh my. My Unfinished Journey, you are probably correct. It could be, I should have said type O instead of type AB negative. I could be mistaken on that. You get the general idea, I trust, even if I was on the wrong end of that particular spectrum. But Aunt Jer said something interesting. It was, this is blood. Jesus had blood. Therefore, this is Jesus's blood.
Yeah.
All Jesuses notoriously had blood.
the universe is just there, and that's all. But is that really all? If the universe never began to exist, then that means that the number of events in the past history of the universe is infinite. But mathematicians recognize that the existence of an actually infinite number of things leads to self-contradictions.
It doesn't, though, because, so Craig, not a mathematician, no. He's trying to invoke a science he doesn't actually understand. I don't know the names of the proofs because I'm not a mathematician either, but we've looked them up in the past on these shows that demonstrate that even if you had an infinite series of events, you still can get from point A to point B finite points within an infinite line. It's sort of like saying, if the space in the universe is infinite, how can you ever get to Chicago? Well, you're not starting from the end of the damn universe. You're starting from wherever you are. So you only have to cross a finite distance.
And the whole idea, it's like Zeno's paradox, right? So if there's an infinite amount of moments in between 1 second to the other, you shouldn't be able to get to that next second. But it's sort of counterintuitive. But even if there is an infinite number, you can keep splitting it and splitting it and splitting it. You can still get from one moment to the other.
Yeah. Actually, that's a really, really good example, because it shows that the ancients were thinking about this stuff long before we'd ever discovered the idea of quantum theory.
Right.
And at its, people throw quantum in front of every kind of woo-woo these days, but at its foundation, quantum physics is just the idea that things can be quantized. Like, the most fundamental part of it. Way back in Maxwell's time, when he was doing research on energy and electromagnetic radiation, people thought that stars emitted an infinite amount of energy. They just light forever and always. Maxwell determined that doesn't make sense, because a planet would be vaporized instantly if a sun emitted an infinite amount of energy. That doesn't work. So he did some math, he did some research, he did more math, etc., and he came up with this idea that there have to be discrete units of energy that are emitted. That's a photon. A photon is one quanta, an indivisible unit of emission energy. And the quanta is where quantum physics takes its name. Everything is quantified. And the Greeks understood that no matter how small you break down your quantification, thousands of years before quantum theory, there's still a continuity to reality, no matter how we are choosing to describe it. It's a reification fallacy writ large.
For example, what is infinity minus infinity? Well, mathematically, you get self-contradictory answers. This shows that infinity is just an idea in your mind, not something that exists in reality. David Hilbert, perhaps the greatest mathematician of this century, states,
point of order, our ability or inability to understand something or comprehend something fully does not mean it doesn't exist or cannot exist. It means we need to reframe the way we're thinking about it. I'm reminded of C.S. Lewis's chicken and egg problem, showing it was after evolution was known about, but Lewis wasn't that really well educated on the sciences. So he had this idea that a chicken lays an egg, and then the egg becomes a chicken, and the chicken lays an egg, and the egg becomes a chicken, and this will just go on forever. Therefore, God must have created the chicken, because it's the only way to start to break that infinite loop.
What?
That was Lewis's thing. It's oh my goodness. It's
wow. That's terrible.
Yeah.
Look, and here's the thing. Like, you're basically, I don't know if infinites can exist in the real world. Like, how would we even know if something was actually infinite? Mathematically, it all works out. Like, I get that mathematicians do it all the time, but we don't even know if something can be infinite. But the thing is that not the atheists aren't the ones saying that they know what happened before the universe for it to be infinite. This is projection from Craig here, because he's basically saying, well, you guys believe in infinite things. Excuse me, sir, you believe in an infinite God. Like, you think that this thing is infinitely powerful, infinitely good, like, we're not the ones proposing this stuff. We're saying, hey, this universe could have been in an atemporal state. It could be birthed from another parent universe. We could be in a black hole, part of another universe, and that universe can be in one of our black holes in a recursion. We don't know. It's this guy saying, hey, we know exactly where it comes from. It comes from an infinitely powerful God. And then he has the gall to say to us, hey, you guys believe in infinites even though they don't exist in the real world, and you guys are saying where the universe came from, even though it's impossible. Seriously, dude, stop. Let's not strawman each other. Ember, let's not strawman each other.
No, we shouldn't do that. That would be bad form.
Wow.
Oh, look.
Yeah, that
Strawman in
would
the
be
chat.
bad form, wouldn't it? Yeah.
We do still have that emoji. Oh, goodness. I'm incorrigible.
Oh.
Don't mind me. And you too could have fun emojis like that if you join and become a channel supporter. Memberships start at just 99 cents if all you want is the emojis. There's higher tiers if you want more benefits. We've got tons of exclusive content. Members get early and ad-free access to every video I put out that's actually produced. The live streams, obviously, I can't do those early, but I do try to do member streams when I can. There's other things too. You know, give me money, please. I need it a lot, because this is my job now, apparently.
The infinite is nowhere to be found in reality. It neither exists in nature, nor provides a legitimate basis for rational thought. The role that remains for the infinite to play is solely that of an idea. But that entails that since past events are not just ideas, but are real, the number of past events must be finite. Therefore, the series of past events can't go back forever. Rather, the universe must have begun to exist. This conclusion has been confirmed by remarkable discoveries in astronomy and astrophysics. The astrophysical evidence indicates that the universe began to exist in a great explosion called the Big Bang.
So he doesn't understand the science, and he's telling on himself about that. Mm-hmm. Not an explosion, and also the current presentation of our universe began in, let's call it the Big Bang, what the hell, but that doesn't mean that's the beginning of all time and reality and whatnot at all. Yes. Liam Wakefield, welcome. Thank you for joining memberships. I'm messing up my own marketing. Do enjoy all the fun custom emojis and we've got buttons. We've got all kinds of buttons. The more members we get, the more emojis we can add. We do have to add a whole lot of members to get extra emojis. But when that happens, members get to vote on the new emojis that get added. It's a community participation kind of thing. So yeah, thank you and enjoy.
15 billion years ago. Physical space and time were created in that event, as well as all...
Yes. So how do you get infinite time going back if time was created in that event? How? You just contradicted yourself, Craig.
It's a bit of an issue. My whole thing is time was created in the Big Bang the same way time is being created right now, right? We're moving from one second to the next. Something is creating more time using Craig's framing. But it doesn't really make sense because there isn't a magic being standing next to each of us and every atom in the cosmos and whatnot, laying out the next second so we can hop to it like a stepping stone. That's not how it works. Time is expanding in the same way space is expanding. It's stretching out. And it's just infuriating how he's trying to invoke science that he doesn't understand at even an undergrad level.
Mm-hmm. And if that's singularity, that is when time started. But he still has contradicted himself in saying, hey, that's when time started. So how can you have eternality if time has a start?
How can time start if time's not running for there to be a different, not going to go, like you need a time framework for any kind of change to happen in the first place. It is self-contradictory.
Yes. But there's another, there's a few possibilities. Like, for instance, that's our local presentation of space-time. There can be, like in the greater cosmos, like a child universe from a parent universe, that it uses that time to start the event. And what do we know about that? Absolutely nothing. And no atheist is saying that they know where the universe came from. It's him that says he knows where the universe came from. The burden's on you to show that it was a god, not for me to have any other explanation whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. So let's obviously this is way in the past, so we can't tell Craig what to do. He's not going to answer us, but like maybe stop trying to poo-poo on the other position and give us some positive information for yours, because that's what you're the positive position.
All the matter and energy in the universe. Therefore, as the Cambridge astronomer Fred Hoyle points out, the Big Bang Theory requires the creation of the universe from nothing.
Not true. However, I will point out that is what Bill Craig actually believes happened. He believes a creator poofed the universe into being from nothing, and that's not even a straw man. That's literally what he thinks. But Hoyle, notorious critic of the Big Bang, he's the one who gave it the name because he thought it sounded silly and derisive. He hated it. He was a champion of the steady state theory, which did actually hold that the universe was eternal. It's like, what are you doing, Bill?
Wasn't he like a notoriously fervent Christian as well? Like he that's why he preferred the steady state, because he's like Hindu, was he? Okay, interesting.
Yeah, the Christians will call him an atheist, but he, at least at the end of his life, he subscribed to Hinduism. He may have believed something else earlier. I don't know. He was gone before I was paying attention to any of this. It's a thing to do with a time machine, you know? Go back and, like, talk to some of these people and be like, why do you believe the things you believe? I'm very curious. Oh, what have I done?
This is because as you go back in time, you reach a point at which, in Hoyle's words, the universe was shrunk down to nothing at all. Thus, what the Big Bang model requires is that the universe began to exist and was created out of nothing. Now, this tends to be very awkward.
There's nothing like taking the words. I'm just going to grant that he's quoting Hoyle perfectly and not mischaracterizing him. There's nothing like taking the words of a person who was more than happy to straw man a theory he didn't like, and then quoting him as an authority on that thing.
For the atheist. For as Anthony Kenny of Oxford University urges, a proponent of the Big Bang Theory, at least if he is an atheist, must believe that the universe came from nothing and by nothing. But
no, we don't. As many of you know, I have a scientific background in cosmology and cosmogony, and as an atheist, no, we don't. We don't know for sure how it happened. We have a few ideas. They may all be wrong, but no one seriously thinks it came from nothing. That doesn't even make sense. What even is a nothing? Someone show me a sample so we can measure it, you know?
Surely that doesn't make sense. Out of nothing, nothing comes. So why does the universe...
He's disproven atheism by quoting a random adage. It's a thing people say, an idiom, if you will, from nothing, nothing comes. Which, if I recall correctly, has something to do with you have to go work if you want to make a better life, is the general fable it's associated with.
Right.
Well, that does it. Obviously, the universe didn't come into existence. We're not here, folks. Brains in jars confirmed.
Yeah, because he thinks that God created something out of nothing. So that whole thing about from nothing, nothing comes, well, it can't it, according to this guy, because he thinks that God waved his hand or spoke a word, and from nothing, something came.
Yeah, he just nothinged it. It wasn't even magic. He just nothinged it into existence.
Yeah.
Liam says he dragged that nonsense out of nothing.
Well, I mean, Strawman is based on something. A lot of this something from nothing is based upon Lawrence Krauss's book title, which was sort of A Universe from Nothing, which is really pithy and a really good title for a book if you want to sell books. But he wasn't actually talking about literally no thing, like some philosophical absence of something. He was talking about something with no space, no time, no energy, no matter. Basically, a quantum state where there is none of these fundamental things there. So it wasn't nothing. It was a quantum. I've said this a million times to theists, and they still strawman what Lawrence Krauss was actually talking about. It's just so ridiculous that they're saying, hey, don't strawman us by, saying it's a sky daddy or something like that. We wouldn't want to strawman people. And Krauss made perfectly clear what he was talking about. And even when you bring it up, some theists will acknowledge it. And then the next time you see them, they'll be going on about how, you think a universe came from nothing. They understand quite well what you're talking about. They're just too dishonest to actually not strawman people. While saying, don't strawman us and our magic sky daddy. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it goes to show the bad faith, the dishonesty, the intellectual, the double standards, cognitive dissonance, all sorts of things. But ultimately, underneath all of it, the reason they pursue these rhetorical tricks, this propaganda technique to try to trick you into thinking they're right, is because at the deepest levels, they know they're wrong. As Dr. Bundy put it at the Ark Encounter during our protest last weekend, they are lying and they know it. I love how not nice about these things he is. He's inspirational. I adore that man.
Yeah.
Universe exist instead of just nothing. Where did it come from? There must have been a cause which brought the universe into being. We can summarize our argument.
Point of order. Not everything in the universe has one cause. In fact, most things in the universe have lots of causes. So if one is going to extrapolate to the universe itself, must have a cause.
A cause.
It isn't necessarily a cause. In fact, it's like the Earth, right? The Earth is a big, complex system. It's made of all kinds of matter that we know from science has come from supernovas in the past and asteroid impacts and possibly comets and all sorts of things.
Yep.
Well, clearly it must have a cause. Well, in a colloquial way, yes, but in a literal way, lots of causes. Stars blew up, comets hit. There's many causes that go into contributing, making the Earth we see today. Very few things have just one cause. So Craig is kind of, it's sort of a red herring. He's trying to lead us down a false trail towards his preferred conclusion. I know a true red herring is to just lead you off the trail entirely. There's probably a term for what he's doing, but it eludes me at the moment. The point is he's abusing language. He's switching words around. It's almost an equivocation, but slightly different.
Thus far as follows. Premise 1. Whatever begins to exist has a cause. 2. The universe began to exist. 3. Therefore, the universe has a cause.
His favorite argument. He's rewritten this argument so many times in the years since. He did one a year or two ago with math. Math exists. Math must have a cause, therefore God. It's the dumbest fucking thing, but it's the same argument repurposed to explain the existence of mathematics. It's just wild. So once again, we don't know that the rules that apply within the universe apply to the universe itself. So we don't know if cause and effect applies. Second, the universe doesn't necessarily have to have a single cause, even if the principles of causation apply to it. And we can't say for sure because it depends on very specific parameters that defy the human capability to wrap our brains around. But what do you mean by begin to exist? Because that's Craig's contribution to the Kalam, was to add that begin to exist. The reason being, if the universe didn't begin to exist, then it just exists, the same as his God. When you say, okay, apply the same argument to your God. Everything that exists needs a cause. You say your God exists, so what caused it? He added that begin so that he didn't have to special pleading his God.
Correct. Yes. But you can sort of destroy that argument by saying, well, that the universe doesn't necessarily have begun to exist. Like I've said, like in an atemporal state, it could have always been there. Because if there's no time, then that's instantaneous.
Mhm.
So it's this is, and I do want to sort of mention with the Kalam, which is the Kalam cosmological argument, is what this is, with extra steps from Craig.
Mhm.
It in no way points to any kind of God. All it says is that the universe had a cause, and so he kind of is like really leaning on this idea of saying, okay, well, let's establish it has a cause, and then I will do some sort of a sleight of hand to get my God into that cause, to smuggle it in. And that's all his stuff that comes later. I'm sure he'll go through the spaceless, timeless, personal cause. I don't like. How do you argue that the cause of the universe is personal?
We've heard a few attempts. Maybe Craig will do better.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, it's an important observation that even if we grant the entire argument, which is fallacious as hell on every single level, like the like you touched on the time perspective, definitionally time exists within the universe. So the universe has definitionally existed for all of time. There's a finite starting point to where our current clocks can run from, but if there's time, there's a universe for time to exist in. So it has existed for all of time as we understand it, and therefore, even though it's a finite number, it's still kind of eternal, but details. It's just, it's so wild. But even if we grant the whole thing, it doesn't get us to Craig's God. It doesn't get us to Allah. It doesn't get us to Vishnu or Brahma or Nil, the great not God and creator gods, which is why Nil exists. I came up with Nil to explain this sort of argument. Like, okay, the universe needs a creator. Let's grant that. How do you know it's your thing and not Nil, the great not God and creator gods? Who explains where your God came from? It's the creator of creator gods. It's right in the name. And on that note, this book, which Craig likes to use to explain the functioning of his God and whatnot, I forget the book and chapter and verse and all that nonsense off the top of my head, but there's a few passages in here that describe Yahweh being the son of a preceding God. So he's not eternal, and we know where he came from. He has a father, and it's in the damn book. But, I mean, Genesis describes him being a physical being walking around the Garden of Eden and not being able to find Adam and Eve. So clearly we're not paying any attention to what this has to say. We're just making shit up. But I do digress.
Now, from the very nature of the case, as the cause of space and time, this cause must be an uncaused, timeless, changeless, and immaterial being of
Mark is a prophet.
Oh yeah. Well, William Lane Craig has been using this for ages. Like, and so the question then becomes, well, how is God timeless? He basically, I understand transcendent time, that he's basically outside of time but can reach into the temporal world to affect change, right? That's basically what we're talking about. But to say it's timeless means that something like you said, you need time in order to enact any change. Right? Change seems to need time. So if something is timeless, then it can't decide to create the universe because there is no time in which to do so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
if you're going to appeal to a personal being to make a choice to create the universe, if there is no time, it cannot make that decision.
Or take action, or
Right. Because and I'll explain what I mean, because when you're saying, hey, something has made a choice, this God makes a choice that it will create the universe. How can there be, if it is timeless, if there is no time applicable to it, how can there be at one point it doesn't want to create the universe, and then at another point it does want to create the universe? That makes no sense. If it's timeless, there should be no separation between them, and therefore it cannot make that choice ever.
It gets really irrational really, really fast. You'd think a philosophy guy would know that, but shrug.
An imaginable power which created the universe. Moreover, I would argue it must also be personal. For how else could a timeless cause give rise to a temporal effect, like the universe?
Why would a timeless being give rise to something that is imperfect from its own sense of perception? It defies reason in innumerable ways. But yeah, he's going with the argument. We've heard it before, but this is in the past, so maybe this was the first time he posed it. Probably not. That it has to be personal because it had to make a choice. Even though, like you just said, if it exists outside of time, there is no time where it has not, where it ever makes the choice, where it goes from undecided to decided. Yikes.
If the cause were an impersonal set of necessary and sufficient conditions, then the cause could never exist without the effect. If the cause were timelessly present, then the effect would be timelessly present as well. The only way for the cause to be timeless and for the effect to begin to exist in time is for the cause to be a personal agent who freely chooses to create an effect in time without...
Okay, so hydrogen has existed basically since the start of the universe, right?
Yeah.
As soon as matter could condense out of the energy soup. Stars are made of hydrogen. So when a star goes supernova, it's this hydrogen that's been around just vibing as hydrogen since the start of the universe, suddenly deciding all together, all at once, they're going to explode. The stars must be personal to make the choice to do the supernova. Clearly. Otherwise, they would have done it long before. Yikes. This is just so, like, it's almost like Bill has never talked to another human about these ideas ever. And we know he has. He's done these debates so many times.
Yeah.
The fuck? Like an avalanche, right? Yes, water's more complicated. It showed up much later in the universe, whatever. The snow sits on mountaintops for years, sometimes decades, sometimes centuries, until that last snowflake falls and causes an avalanche. Did the snowflake make the choice? Did the snow collectively make a choice? Is it personal? Is there a decider? What are we doing, Craig? Just because things happen in time, it's because of a confluence of circumstances. Everything that happens is the result of an emergent set of properties that all depend on the various factors contributing to the total set. Things happen when the conditions are right for that thing to happen, not because there was a choice made.
Right.
I'm going to blow out my brain cells on this one, I think. The good news is...
Well, it's lame, Craig. I mean, none of these... Well, you've got to remember that none of these arguments was what convinced Craig of Christianity. He says it was... So Craig basically says it was a pragmatic belief. So basically it was in his best interest, or it was useful to believe in Christianity, be a Christian in the society that he was raised. That's one of the reasons. And the other thing that convinced him was Pascal's wager, which is sort of a pragmatic reason as well. It's sort of this, well, I'm going to hedge my bets and go for the most likely that I think, it's sort of, Pascal's is a terrible argument. It's a terrible argument. But, none of this stuff convinced Craig. This is, and we see so much of this within the apologetics world. It is, we have this belief. How do we make it work? How do we get this justified? Not what convinced me, or is there an epistemic basis for why I believe what I believe? Like, atheists do. It's basically well, I believe this. It is my faith. It is my, and Craig will mention his faith in this. Like, faith is what gets you over that epistemic bar, which is basically, well, I'm going to just have trust in it. All of this is just stuff for people who are Christians to make them feel better that they don't have good reasons for believing it.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah, all these apologists. Craig polishes it up very nicely and makes it look more academic, but ultimately, whether it's Craig or Ray Comfort or Frank Turek, what you're seeing is a masterclass in motivated reasoning.
Yep.
They don't tell you why they believe. They're doing after-the-fact justifications for why they shouldn't question why they believe.
Right.
Any prior determining conditions. Thus, we are brought not merely to a transcendent cause of the universe, but to its personal creator. Isn't it incredible that the Big Bang Theory thus confirms what the Christian theist has always believed, that in the beginning...
Does it?
I'm sorry. That's ridiculous. The Big Bang Theory confirms what Christians always believe. Are you high?
You may be.
Are you higher? Are you higher than your epistemic bar? Wow.
So, I should note here, it's been said before, but every show is somebody's first show, especially when a channel sends people over, like In Time does. Thank you much, folks.
Right.
The Big Bang, what we now call the Big Bang, was the handiwork of a Catholic priest named George Lemaitre. He worked on the Einstein field equations, combined with Hubble's observations, Hubble and Slipher, of the redshift and the proposed recessional velocity of distant galaxies, and found that if you run these two things together, backwards through time, everything gets closer and closer and closer together until, bloop, you get a singularity. And he was like, ho-ho, this must be the beginning of the universe. And so he went to the Pope and he said, your Majesty, or whatever the fuck you say to popes, behold this work I have done for the glory of God. And the Pope says, my son, my goodness, you have confirmed the words of Genesis. And Lemaitre says, Holy Father, with all due respect, no. I see what you're trying to do. You're saying that Genesis says a moment of creation, and this appears to be what you might call a moment of creation, but this is not that. And we must not confuse them. So even the guy who came up with it, who was a priest, was adamant about the fact that the Big Bang is not Genesis.
Yep.
But Craig does not rise to that lofty a standard, apparently.
God created the heavens and the earth. Now, I simply put it to you, which do you think makes more sense? That the theist is right, or that the universe just popped into being uncaused out of nothing?
I love a false dichotomy. Yay!
But let's not strawman, Ember. Let's not strawman. Wow, Craig, what is wrong with this guy?
Oh, he is. See, this is another reason why outsiders like myself, who my grandmother tried her best, but she was never able to get me to join a church. Partly because the churches kept kicking me out for asking questions, but details. As an outsider, I look at this shit and I'm like, people hold this man up as the best thinker in modern apologetics. And this is so, if I've taught classes from time to time for online schools. Some of them have been college level classes. If he tried shit like this in a 101 philosophy course, I would fail his ass. This is really, really bad, low-level undergraduate shit. It's intro-level shit that he's fucking up, and he's the best they have. Are you surprised why we're not convinced? Fuck!
And are you surprised by people are leaving Christianity in droves? It's because of this kind of stuff. Like, your arguments are terrible.
I got a little worked up there.
That's all right. I totally understand why. It's just, that like the when you have to lean on such a gross straw man of, sort of what astrologers, astronomers and stuff and people studying cosmogony, the origin of the universe have been saying, it does not age well. It doesn't, because you get to more and more people understanding what these people are saying, and it just it looks childish. Or you step into a debate with someone like Sean Carroll and you get your ass handed to you.
That was a fun debate.
That was a fun debate. That was really good because he was absolutely destroyed by Sean Carroll because he wanted to talk about cosmogony and cosmology with one of the best physicists that we have, and had his ass handed to him.
It was pretty special. For those of you who are somewhat new to my channel or our debate reviews generally, Mark and I have been at this for something like 2 years at this point, and there's a whole playlist of all the debates that we've reviewed in the past, going all the way back to the first one before they were even actually called debate reviews. And that's linked in the description. I'm pretty sure the debate we're talking about with Carol is in there somewhere.
Okay. Well, is that just for yours or mine, or do we have a master list somewhere? Is that what
I've got one that includes both, because we have so many part twos and so forth.
Yeah. Because we switch channels, so if you've done that, like, look, out of the two of us, Ember, I love her. She's way more organized than I am. I'm so sorry. Like, I am the least organized out of the two of us, and I really appreciate that, Ems. I really do.
No one does one's best, but I mean, there's two of us. One of us had to be.
I don't know. Well, I mean, William Lane Craig is one, and he doesn't seem to be doing his best. So maybe one can do their best, but one believes in a magical sky daddy. Look, I think it's totally fair. If he's going to strawman the science, I'm going to strawman his God belief. I think that's fair.
Yeah. It's just at the very least. And speaking of just, we've been running a poll since the start of the stream. We're at about the 1 hour mark, so I figure we've got probably as many votes as we're going to get. And let's see here. That is who would win? Blue, whom we haven't heard from yet, but that's okay. Craig, both at 4%. The subscribe button, 32%. 8 times better than either of the debate participants. And of course, the actual winner with an overwhelming landslide, Mark's hair. 61% of the vote. Congratulations to your invisible friend, apparently.
Yeah. My hair just as real as God. Yep, absolutely.
Oh, goodness.
I at least don't have any trouble assessing these alternatives. Number 2. The complex order in the universe. During the last 30 years, scientists have discovered that the existence of intelligent life depends upon a delicate and complex balance of initial conditions simply given in the Big Bang itself.
Well, fairly a logical argument. Yeah, so this is the watchmaker argument. It's basically, basically that hey, things are complex, they require a certain set of circumstances to exist, therefore something must have selected those circumstances. No, life is a lot more plastic and pliable than he's giving it credit for. We used to think there must be these certain circumstances where life can only flourish, but we sort of see life generally adapt very well to its environments. Like, there is a bacteria that lives on the inside of nuclear reactors. And we didn't think that was possible, but they just sort of radiation blasts their DNA apart and it kind of just repairs itself. It's pretty freaky. And extremophiles, we thought, okay, at this high level of temperature and on volcanic vents, nothing can survive. Oops, we're wrong. Things actually can. So, I think he's sort of, he's looking at a certain circumstances that is conducive to life and going, well, because life exists, then something must have selected that. It's a fallacy. It's the weak anthropomorphic principle. Anthropic, sorry. Yeah, you're absolutely correct. It's the weak anthropic principle. It's basically saying because conditions are right for something, it must have been chosen for those things, instead of those things adapting or changing to suit those conditions.
Mm-hmm. And we there's so much to say on it, so I'll just keep it to just one point. Life exists where life can exist. If there were a supernatural cause behind it, we might expect to see life in a lot more places. If creating life was the goal, and it's life as we know it. You know, like, if we had a different set of values, we might see more life, we might see less life, or we might see an entirely different kind of life than what we currently consider. Like, in our universe, we have carbon-based multicellular life forms. Wonderful, huzzah. But in a different set of initial conditions, you might get energy wave-based life, or something we can't even conceptualize. So it's not like you have to have precise dialed-in values chosen by a creator in order to make life barely possible on a small percentage of the skin of one tiny little rocky world around one specific star. Like, this is insane levels of cope. Any set of values may or may not generate life. It may or may not generate more or less life. We just don't know because we haven't observed any other universes. But we can't rule out the possibility that there would just be different life.
We now know that life-prohibiting universes are vastly more probable than any life-permitting universe.
Point of order.
How do we know that?
We do not know any such thing.
Yes.
We have not studied any other universes.
Exactly. How did he calculate this probability?
I hope Flew calls him on it, because
that's what I want to know.
I'd love to hear an answer on that.
Yeah.
Like, how do you do that calculation? You have a sample size of 1, my guy. It's like taking a 6-sided die, a standard gambling die, rolling it and getting a 1 and being like, well, it's far more probable that we'd roll a 1.
Yep.
You rolled it once. Like, what do you mean?
Well, so lacking a large sample size, you can do something called Bayesian analysis, and that is basically making a number of sort of assumptions or sort of a number of inferences about the data, and then working a probability based upon that. But the problem there is, if any of those are wrong, you can throw the study straight out the window, because it will absolutely destroy the probabilities. Bayesian analysis is supposed to update over time as you get more information. Tell me, Bill, what new information have you got about other universes that you can share with us?
Yeah, you can't do a Bayesian analysis on something for which you can't acquire more data. It's just your set of assumptions. And you're calling it by a fancy name to make it sound more academic. It's like, well, I have decided that it's more probable that this. So there. Oh, good job, I guess.
But it's interesting the way that he wants to go, well, I believe in a God because it's more probable. But he's like, well, it's more probable that no universe, like universes do not support life. Then why don't you believe that, Bill?
Yeah. Doing a statistical analysis of the observable universe to the extent we can measure it. This universe doesn't support life. Like, we found one data point. We're aware of thousands of exoplanets at this point, and that's just limiting the data to just planets. Like, there's gazillions of moons, there's trillions of stars. The numbers of things are huge, but limiting it to just exoplanets. The amount of life detected in our cosmos at present is something on the order of 0.001%. It is a statistical anomaly. It is a single point outlier in a relatively decent sample size. Therefore, statistically, this universe doesn't contain life. Ay, ay, ay.
Universe like ours. How much more probable? Well, the answer is that the chances that the universe should be life-permitting are so infinitesimal as to be incomprehensible and incalculable.
It's
Why?
1. The probability is 1 because we've observed one universe and we found life in it. The probability is 1.
Yes. He's trying to say if any of the constants are different and they, this is based upon prior assumptions like in a Bayesian analysis. Because if you say, hey, if the gravity was, instead of G, it was G plus 0.01 or something. Like if they were slightly different. But we don't know if a universe can come about under those circumstances. So there may not be a way that a universe forms if any of the constants have changed. So it may be that life has to exist in this universe because this is the only way a universe can come about. Or maybe it can be different. Maybe there's a high possibility that the constants will be what they are in this universe. We don't know. You have to assume that these universal constants can be anything, which we don't know, and that it is equally likely for them to be a different value aside from the value that we have, which we don't know either. We don't know any of this stuff. It is just assumed by Craig that the constants could be anything, and there's more of a chance than it would be something else rather than the ones we have right now. I don't know that. No physicist claims to know that. But Craig says he knows that. Can you show us your working, Craig?
Yeah, citation needed, as they say.
Yeah.
But there's also another factor to it. Like, we don't see life in a lot of places, like Mars, for example. No obvious observable life, no life we've managed to detect even when we go look for it. The Moon, Mercury, Venus, like all the places we've sent probes, no life. If there were a supernatural being tuning the dials, why is that the case? Why isn't there more life everywhere? Or even better, see, Craig is presenting not just the weak anthropic principle, but the weak theistic principle. God is so weak, he can't supernaturally intervene in the universe and make life exist on Mars, despite the fact that the natural conditions don't occur. It can only happen where it can naturally occur anyway, without supernatural interference, because God is so weak he can't. All he can do is set up the dials from outside the universe and before the Big Bang. Which is not the God Craig is actually arguing for.
For example, Stephen Hawking has estimated that if the rate of the universe's expansion 1 second after the Big Bang had been smaller by even 1 part in 100,000 million, the universe would have recollapsed into a hot fireball. PCW Davies has calculated
that, well, this is a common cherry pick.
I think fireball is a bit...
Yes, it's a mischaracterization, but this is a common cherry pick. It's from one of Stephen Hawking's earlier books. He then spends the next 6 pages explaining how that could not happen, because he lays out math and data and shit that shows that the constants are all interrelated for various reasons in various ways. And so you can't just arbitrarily turn the dial on the expansion rate of the universe. The expansion rate of the universe is a result of all these other constants. So if you change one, you change all of them, and you end up with the same effect because the balance is preserved. But we skip over all of that justification and just cherry pick out that if it were changed, it wouldn't work. And also, that doesn't actually make sense. So a little bit meta on cosmology. Everybody thinks of the universe expanding, and we have this idea that the universe is like a balloon that's inflating or something, which in our 3D space would be expanding into the empty room. And so people wonder, what is the universe expanding into? It's not. There's nothing it's expanding into because all of space is within it. And that's hard to wrap our heads around. But the reason it's important is because we're still in the singularity. Expanded, collapsed, whatever. This is all an internal perspective. If you could somehow get an external view of the universe, it's still the singularity. There is no expanding or collapsing going on there because there's neither time nor space as exists within here. It's still the singularity right now. So it couldn't collapse because it's not changing from an external perspective. And it frustrates me that people like Craig are out here saying nonsense.
Well, in fairness, he's not a cosmogonist, which is strange because his entire arguments rest upon the sort of, the astronomy that he's talking about, the cosmology that he's talking about, which is wild that he doesn't actually have a good handle on what physicists say. He just, sort of gets a pop culture idea of how these things work and runs his philosophy on that, which seems very, very problematic to me. Something also occurs to me while we're talking. It's like if we're sitting in an avalanche, right? And like, I remember your avalanche thing from earlier kind of thing. It can have many causes and things like that. But it's like sitting in an avalanche and going, hey, physicists say that if there was one snowflake less on the mountain, the avalanche would never have happened. And it's like, well, okay.
Yeah, demonstrate,
guess
please.
What? It did. Like, we're here. So just sort of saying, hey, if things were different, it wouldn't have happened, isn't actually useful. And I might point out that it is far more likely for an avalanche not to happen than an avalanche to happen.
That's true. That's a really good analogy, more so than it seems on the surface, because we can observe snowbanks on mountains for years at a time and never see an avalanche and say, oh, well, based on the data, avalanches just don't happen. And yet, sometimes they do.
Or you would have to argue that God has to intercede to cause that avalanche rather than the naturalistic physical mechanisms that we understand that cause, that snow falls and there is an accumulation, and when it piles up enough, even something like somebody yelling can cause an avalanche to happen. It's like saying, well, if somebody yelled just a tiny fraction less, that avalanche, but that didn't happen. Because we're in the damn avalanche right now, but it doesn't mean that a God had to necessarily have caused that.
Scott Newson says, I don't trust snowbanks. I put my money in and went back to withdraw it in the spring, and it was gone.
Yeah.
I enjoy puns. Probably too much.
Yeah, no, I got you, but I think people have had that experience with banks, as real banks as well. Scott, so,
yes, actually.
Yeah.
So I do banking with a certain bank. I chose the bank because there was a branch at the time I opened the account. I was doing cross-country driving. There was a branch in the same town as my start terminal and a branch near my home. And so there was a branch at both ends of my run, effectively. Well, I changed jobs several times since then. I don't know if that branch is still open, but whatever. The branch near my home closed. And then the next nearest branch closed, and then the next nearest branch closed. And as it stands right now, I'd have to drive over 2 hours to get to a physical branch. So it's just...
Does it have online banking?
It does, and that's what I've been using. They take online mobile deposits, so I technically can do all my banking as long as I don't need to withdraw physical money, which sometimes I do, and that can create some issues. So I just this past week opened a new account at a bank that has a branch that's literally walking distance from my house. So now I have another bank I can do business with. I didn't close the other account because all my auto payments and stuff are tied to that account. But now I have a bank I can get to if I need to.
I've been with the same bank since I was, I think about 14. I've been with the same bank, which is crazy to me. Like, how they have those. You're in school and they have those. Oh, open your bank. You know what? It possibly in actually primary school that I opened. It was like called a Dolomite account, which I found very punny kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And I've had the same bank since. It's been with them, got loans through them, and they've been absolutely wonderful to me. I got to say, I'm happy with my bank, very happy.
Yeah, if they do a good job, there's no reason to change.
Yeah, yeah.
It's super cool.
Yeah, I'm going to release the name. It's called Bank West, but everybody in my state calls it Wank Best. So
Of course.
because Australians,
Yes. Oh, that's good. I like it.
That the odds against the initial conditions being suitable for later star formation, without which planets could not exist, is 1 followed by 1,000 billion zeros.
So obviously, Craig probably got the number from somewhere, but wherever he got it from, they just made it up.
Yeah.
It's based on nothing. Yeah. Someone made that up. But also, again, we don't know if the conditions were different, then the conditions would be different. And so you might get stars. You might get better stars. You might get worse stars, but still stars. We just don't fucking know.
Right. And it's also like that number of the chances, it's based upon there being an equal probability of all numbers, right? Like saying, hey, all of these numbers have equal probability and we're one of all of these different numbers that it could be. How do you know it could be those other numbers? How do you know the probability isn't like 99% of the time you get this value? We don't know. We have no idea.
Mm-hmm. And what's worse is Craig should know this. This is one of his more dishonest arguments, and that's saying something. Because, like, to make an argument like this, you're either practicing deliberate ignorance, like, I don't want to know the real thing, I want to just repeat what I've heard, or I see the real information and I'm going to deliberately shove it aside and pretend I don't. La, 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 can't hear you. You know, it has to be dishonest. Just bad mojo. Oh, no worries, John. Yeah, I have a double hat on because Liam found the magic emoji. I mentioned a few months ago, but some of you are new, so I'll explain. I'd been trying to phase in emojis that let the chat interact more directly and control things that happen on stream. And one of the emojis causes me to change my hats. And I saw it go by. I can't actually change my hat right now because I have to use these headphones because I have severe ear infections in both ears, and I have to use headphones. I can't use regular earbuds, and this is the only hat I can wear and have my headphones on. So I had to, in obedience to the chat emoji, I had to put a hat on over my hat. So that's why that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And if you too would like to make me change my hat randomly, consider becoming a member. Starts at only 99 cents a month, and you get all the fun emojis. Like, tape ears and my eyeball, for example.
Least. Frank Tipler and John Barrow estimate that a change in the strength of gravity or of the weak force by only 1 part in 10 to the 100th power would have prevented a life-permitting universe. There are around 50 such quantities and constants present in the Big Bang, which must be fine-tuned in this way if the universe is to permit life. And it's not just each quantity which must be finely tuned. Their ratios to one another must also be exquisitely fine-tuned. So improbability is multiplied by improbability until our minds are reeling in incomprehensible numbers. There is no physical reason why these constants and quantities possess the values they do. The one-time agnostic physicist, Paul Davies...
No. Hold on, Craig. There's not no reason. We don't know the reason why these values have the values they have. Okay, that's a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
it's not that there's no reason, it's just we don't know if there is a reason or what that reason may be. This is really dodgy by Craig here, because he's saying that there's no reason it could be these values except for a God chose them. That's what basically he's angling towards. And I want to really stress this. There may be very good reasons why the constants are the way they are. There could be very, very good reasons. Just because we don't know it doesn't mean that that's any reason to just go, well, we don't know, so it must have been a god.
It's argument from
wow,
incredulity.
Craig, that's
It's
shocking.
It's classic God of the gaps.
Sure.
But what's worse is when you lay it out plain, he's literally saying all the rhetoric and strategy set aside. He's literally saying, here's a thing we don't know, therefore I do know, and the answer is magic.
Right.
Our not knowing means it must be magic? Are you fucking kidding me? You are a PhD, sir. Even a dishonest one surely must hold himself to a higher standard of respectability. For shame.
Comments. Through my scientific work, I have come to believe more and more strongly that the physical universe is put together with an ingenuity so astonishing that I cannot accept it merely as a brute fact. Similarly, Fred Hoyle remarks, a common sense interpretation of the facts suggests that a super intellect has monkeyed with physics. Robert
Hoyle, once again, Hindu. He really did believe a super intellect had monkeyed with physics. But he also disbelieved in the same physics that the rest of us are using to, like, send rockets to the moon and shit. You know, he didn't like that. So take that for what it's worth. Now, to be clear, Hoyle had some wacky ideas, but he did manage to do some science of significance. He's the one who figured out stellar nucleosynthesis. He gave us the math that showed us how we get from hydrogen and helium through heavier stuff like oxygen all the way up to iron. He was like, oh, this shit's made in the heart of stars. And we were like, oh, he's right. Cool. Thanks. Yeah. Thanks, man. You know, he contributed to science, chemistry, astrophysics, all kinds of good shit. So he did make valuable contributions. He was just a little nutty in the way he thought about things on a grander scale. That's all.
Well, it just goes to show that just someone can be an absolute genius and have really good ideas and be correct about many of those ideas. It doesn't mean they're right about everything. Just like Newton was an absolute genius. He invented calculus. He was amazing. He believed in alchemy and was completely wrong that he could turn lead into gold.
I often think of a more contemporary example, John Sanford. This man invented the gene gun. He understands biology and genetics to the level that he created a device that lets us alter the genes of plants that are like not even seeds, like living plants that are fully grown right now. Cool fucking shit. And he turns around and he's like, oh yeah, the Earth is only 6,000 years old. My guy, you're a geneticist. What do you mean? You know?
Yeah.
Smart people can believe dumb things.
So I want to run this by you. This is an appeal to authority, right? Like, so it is, whenever somebody is sort of taking a scientist and saying, hey, they're a fantastic scientist, what they say about this thing must be right. If it hasn't gone through scientific study, peer review process, we don't hold these people up as, well, you know, Fred Hoyle is a expert on Big Bang cosmology, because he's not. He's not. He's an excellent astronomer and cosmologist, but we're talking about cosmogony, which is a subfield in it. And so appealing to what he thought personally is kind of an appeal to authority. Like, you're basically saying, hey, he believed this. Yes, but he was wrong about the Big Bang.
Yeah, we'd love to see if people like Craig would stop trying to name drop people whose ideas they're cherry picking, often out of context, as we demonstrated in the case of Hawking specifically.
Hawking, yeah.
And just make the damn argument. Like, I don't care how many scientists' names you know. Demonstrate why we should believe the shit you're saying. Show, don't tell, I suppose. Which is what I'm often saying. Like, if Craig's God actually existed, he should be able to demonstrate it. It should be the easiest fucking thing in the universe. He wouldn't have to make these complicated, convoluted arguments. He could just pull back a curtain and show us. And he can't. The fact he has to play these games is itself a demonstration that he can't, which in turn is positive evidence that his God does not exist.
Correct. And the worst part is, there's worse still, because Craig's particular God, the Christian God of the Bible, wants you to know that he exists, right? He wants to tell you that he exists. He wants you to understand that he exists and has unlimited power to do so. He is all powerful. To let everybody know that he exists would be a triviality. It would be nothing to this God. So either he does not want you to know that he exists, that's why divine hiddenness ultimately fails, because it goes along with the idea that God hides himself and he wants you to know that he exists. A omniscient God, one that is all intelligent, all knowing, would know that those two things are antithetical to one another. A God that uses omnipotence to hide and a God that wants you to know that he exists, that does not mesh, because that God would know that hiding would cause you to not think he exists. So it absolutely fails, because also he says that God wants you to know. Yet he can't get evidence for it.
Left-handed Jedi, I was thinking the same thing. A Jedi says the Christian God is a Sith Lord. Power! Unlimited power! That's exactly what flashed through my head when you said unlimited power.
Fair enough. I'll get out a meme at some point, yeah.
I know.
Unlimited power. Yeah.
I need... So I've been rebuilding my OBS. I like to think parts of it look better than they ever did before, but I still don't have like all my clips and sounds and memes and stuff. But that'd be one to put on the list, is Palpatine with the unlimited power thing. I think that would be great.
Well, in fairness, Palpatine and I do have the same haircut. I will say that, all right?
You know... Styles change. Sometimes things come back around. It was a galaxy long, long ago and far, far away. And all of those things. Yeah. One of these days, the Charlie Chaplin mustache will probably come back. Not for a while, though, I don't think.
That's not Charlie Chaplin's fault.
Yes. Poor Charlie Chaplin.
I know, right? He could have, like, could you imagine that if this just, someone got accepted into art school and people would be wandering around with Charlie Chaplin mustaches today?
And probably would. He was one of the most famous people at the dawn of fucking film. Like, he's a legend in several different categories. Alas, there's still a dance school near me called the Charlie Chaplin School of Dance. And dancing wasn't even the thing he did best. He just did it sometimes, you know?
NASA's Goddard Institute for Space Studies calls this the most powerful evidence for the existence of God ever to come out of science. So once again, the view that Christian theists have always held, that there is a designer of the cosmos, seems to make much more sense than the atheistic view that the universe, when it popped into being, uncaused out of nothing, just happened to be, by chance, fine-tuned to an incomprehensible precision for the existence of intelligent life. We can summarize our reasoning as follows. Premise 1, the fine-tuning of the initial conditions of the universe is due to either law, chance, or design. 2, It is not due to either law or chance. 3, therefore, it is due to design.
So that's
Why
a
isn't
flawed
that
syllogism.
law?
Yeah, he hasn't demonstrated why it can't be law, and he hasn't demonstrated that it isn't chance. He said the chances are very, very long. He made up a number, but even if we grant that number, it's like if you have a deck of cards, right? You deal out a set of cards, there's a very low chance you deal yourself a straight flush if it's properly shuffled and randomized. But there is a chance, you know? It's definitionally bound to happen at some point, you know?
Well, it's interesting because there is a bridge hand that is the perfect hand. It is the perfect arrangement of suits and numbers to make a perfect bridge hand that can basically almost instantly win the game. Like, it is a perfect bridge hand. That has actually been observed in a tournament, right? Like, it's actually been recorded to have happened. And that is so low a chance. It's almost infinitely low that it could not have happened in human history. But it has.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's lots of other things.
Like, people say, yeah, like, no, that can't be a coincidence. Like, coincidences don't happen. They actually do.
Mm-hmm. That's why there's a word for it. It's just coincidence. It's two things happening at the same time without any necessary relationship between them. It's coincident. That's all that means. But we've seen other highly improbable things, like one that we've talked about a few times recently is the internalization of a new organelle. Right? Like our mitochondria and plants' chloroplasts, there's now a nitrogen-fixing organelle in certain algae and whatnot in the ocean. I forget the exact details off the top of my head, but we know this is a thing that is incomprehensibly rare because there have been trillions or quadrillions of organisms over the course of Earth's history so far, and it's happened 3 times. This is the 3rd that we know of. It may have happened in other things that died off long ago. We don't know for sure. But it's stupid rare. It's so rare you may as well say it doesn't happen. And yet it's happened 3 times we know of. It turns out really, really long odds get a lot bigger when you're rolling the dice billions or trillions or quadrillions of times. If you have a 1 in 1,000 chance, but you're rolling 1 trillion dice, it's inevitable, you know?
Yep.
Number 3, objective moral values in the world. If God does not exist, then objective moral values do not exist.
Well, good news. Objective moral values do not exist. We can demonstrate that.
Yep.
Like, you know, he'll not just him, but other apologists love to say things like, you would agree that it's wrong to murder a baby for fun. They have to put the for fun part on because their own holy book commands the murder of babies. So as long as it's not for fun, then it's morally wrong. My goodness. But I digress. The murder of babies is wrong, but sometimes there's justified killing. Okay, we might agree so far, but where do you put the line? There's a line somewhere between when a killing is justified and when a killing is morally wrong. And every single human being puts the line in a slightly different place because it's not fucking objective.
Yes. Well, it's hard to say. It is very, very hard to say because, you know, it's kind of this thing where, you know, it's hard to say that objective things you should be able to demonstrate, though. Like, if I objectively have, you know, a pen or something, I should be able to demonstrate that is the case. So it's very difficult to demonstrate objective morality, and atheists argue for it as well. So even if, you know, there is an objective morality out of there, how do you make the argument that it's not derived from natural processes, evolutionary selection, social cohesiveness, which is derived by evolution, and you know, all of these biological systems? that is objective. I don't think that rises to morality. I think we just sort of take biological cues, but at the same time, how do you disprove? Like, how do you prove it's objective? Well, you would demonstrate it. What they say is, well, if it's not objective, atheists can do whatever they want. Guess what? You can do whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing stopping you. And you're just saying, well, I don't like the idea that there's not objective morality. Okay.
That's a
so
subjective opinion, isn't it?
You don't like the idea.
Yeah, it's very it's very good news. I don't know. I just want to use that emoji. But I do produce a show called Good News that you can catch on the Transpositions Weekly, Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern on its own channel. All my links are on betterthanember.com. But I digress. I do actually have a pen. Do you enjoy my pen? I like my pen. It's more than just a pen. But also, Craig's argument works against him in this case. Because all that aside, let's grant his argument and see what happens. There are objective moral rules. Cool. Does God have to obey these objective moral rules? Because they're objective, they can't be God's whim, or they're not objective. They're subjective, but subjective to the God. So if they're objective, even God has to follow them.
Mm-hmm.
And that means the God is not Craig's God, because it's limited. It derives its morality from an external source, and it's capable of performing immoral actions, which we see in the Bible, but details. Or the morality does come from God, in which case it's not objective. So Craig's argument is self-refuting, either way you want to consider it. And that's fun, too.
Well, I think that they'd appeal to God's nature. So God doesn't have to follow it, but it's in his nature to do so, just as it's in God's nature to do, it's in my nature to do what I think, and to act in accordance with my nature. The problem there, as you've just pointed out, comes then you've got to own all of that bad crap in the Bible. And the funny thing is, Craig does. He says it was a good thing that they genocided other tribes in the Old Testament. That was a good thing because that was within God's nature, and God's nature is good. So, but what that entails is that if God commands, or William Lane Craig thinks God commands him to, let's use his thing, kill babies, then he will do so and consider it a good action. It is horrifying what these people believe. Horrifying.
Let's see. I actually do have that clip. I don't have it queued up in my OBS, but I can. I can bring it up.
Okay.
And
tremendous.
If I can get the
it thing. Was actually a.
Stop it. And then we'll share this tab. Okay, here we go.
It was actually a tremendous blessing to these children for them to be killed.
Yeah, what a blessing. Yeah.
I wonder if the other version I have is slightly longer. Because it looks like it's a clip out of context actually... when he just ends on be killed. Let me see if this version is a little better.
A tremendous blessing to these children for them to be killed and go to heaven and be with God.
That is horrifying.
This is the best God's got. If his God were real, first of all, why would he need apologists? But more importantly, why would this be the best one?
Yeah.
Fuck's sake.
Many theists and atheists alike concur on this point. For example, Russell observed, ethics arises from the pressures of the community on the individual. Man does not always instinctively feel the desires which are useful to his herd. The herd, being anxious that the individual should act in its interests, has invented various devices for causing the individual's interest to be in harmony with that of the herd. One of these is morality. Michael Roos, a philosopher of science at the University of Guelph, agrees. He explains, Morality is a biological adaptation, no less than our hands and feet and teeth.
Wait. But that was Bertrand Russell. He believed that morality was merely a social construct. So that's not supporting an objective. Is he just trying to point out that, hey, atheists support, like most atheists support relativistic morality? Is that what he's pointing out?
It sounds to me like another argument to authority. Here's a person who said a thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. Well, I mean, I agree with that sentiment that morality, like in the herd, he's talking about pro-social behaviors, basically, that, enable a species to survive and thrive as a social species. I don't see his point on this. Like,
Yeah, there's quite a lot. So if morality was objective and we get it because we from God's image, yada yada yada, why did God have to give us the law? Why is there the 10 Commandments and the rest of the 613 laws of Moses? Why were humans immoral before that? Whence cometh original sin? Which I will remind everyone is supposed to be the knowledge of good and evil. That was a thing God didn't want us to have in the first place. So getting morality from God is a thing the Bible tells us God did not want us to have. But details. What about everything that came before humans? Like, if it's a moral law that comes from a supernatural creator of unlimited power, why aren't the ferrets moral beings? How is it possible that there's any immoral action in the animal kingdom? Make it make sense.
Who knows?
Considered as a rationally justifiable set of claims about an objective something, ethics is illusory. I appreciate that when somebody says, "Love thy neighbor as thyself," they think they are referring above and beyond themselves. Nevertheless, such reference is truly without foundation. Morality is just an aid to survival and reproduction, and any deeper meaning is illusory. Friedrich Nietzsche, the great atheist of the last century who proclaimed the death of God, understood that the death of God meant the destruction of all meaning and value in life. I think that Friedrich
Bill did not understand Nietzsche.
Yeah, and he was a nihilist as well, which most atheists are not nihilists.
I don't know if there's ever been a survey done. Like, I wouldn't say most atheists are not. I would say that most theists are. They may not say so, but that's the general gist of their beliefs, in that without their invisible friend, they believe life has no meaning or purpose. They often articulate this.
Yes.
They are nihilists. Even if they think there's a heaven or something waiting for them, they think this world is pointless except as possibly a test for your soul.
Yes. Yeah.
That said, I don't know that there's necessarily... Nietzsche had sort of a practical nihilism. He was like, there is no cosmic purpose. We're you know, to borrow from Sagan, we're specks of dust on a speck of dust floating in a sunbeam. Our issues aren't really significant on a cosmic scale, so maybe live your damn life.
Right.
You know? Like, just don't be a dick to people.
Yeah, so... But I think Nietzsche kind of got into that, well, what's the point of anything? And, you know, most atheists will create their own point. They'll create their own meaning in life. And I don't see a problem with that. You know, just because you don't have an ultimate meaning doesn't mean you can't have a meaningful life.
Mm-hmm. I mean, really, it's no different from what the theists are doing, except ours is, you know, based on reality instead of just straight up wishful thinking. Like, theists are also creating their own meaning. They're just subscribing to one offered to them by a different person.
Yes.
It's the opt-in plan, I suppose. It's the HMO of cosmic purpose. Oh, no, I hate that. I hate that. Scratch that. Remove it from the record. I never want to see it again.
Nietzsche was right. But we've got to be very careful here. The question here is not, must we believe in God in order to live moral lives? I'm not claiming that we must. Nor is the question, can we recognize objective moral values without believing in God? I think that we can. Rather, the question is, if God does not exist, do objective moral values exist? Like Russell and Roos, I don't see any reason to think that in the absence of God, the herd morality evolved by Homo sapiens is objective.
I agree, with the caveat that I don't think there are objective moral values. Craig is asserting a thing he cannot demonstrate.
Yeah.
He's just taking it, on faith, I suppose, and hoping no one calls him on it.
And
After all,
he's angling for that, and the actual fallacy is an appeal to consequence. Right? You're saying, hey, things would be really bad if there's no objective morality. That would be a world that I don't like. Okay, well, I don't like that my lifespan is limited, but that is the world that I live in. This is the thing. It's sort of this, well, I don't like what the world is like. That is not an argument for believing the alternative. All it is saying is basically, well, I don't like that there isn't something real set in stone that governs our behavior. But this is why morality is so important. It's because there isn't anything set in stone that governs our behavior. We have to make these morals in order for a functioning society to exist. That's why they're important. You might as well put the same argument towards laws. Well, if there's no objective laws, there's nothing stopping people from committing crime all over the place. Yeah, there's nothing actually stopping people. They can commit crime. The problem, that is why laws are important, because they provide a framework for, tolerable behavior in society, and morals even more so. That's why they're important. It's because there isn't anything set in stone. And I don't know why theists miss this. Because if there were no morals, if you didn't adhere to morals, it is not a life that you would want. It would be a horrible society.
It does get pretty messy too, and you touch on a really important point. One of the first things, as many of you know, but some of you are new, so you don't. I took pre-law courses. I completed a pre-law program. I meant to go on to law school because I enjoy debate and I hate injustice. It fires me up. So I wanted to be a lawyer, but turns out there's a cap on student loans and I hit it face first. So I couldn't afford law school. Not important. The reason I mention it is because the very first class on actual criminal justice touched on this. And it was that laws don't stop crime. Laws do nothing to prevent crimes from happening. Laws exist so that when crimes occur, the punishments are just and fair to the extent that humans can make them. So that if you murder someone in self-defense, you will get the same punishment as the very, very rich man who murders someone in self-defense. It's to make sure there's some standard of fairness. And
a social contract.
Yeah, the disincentive of maybe don't murder people because here's this punishment, but that doesn't really do much to curb behavior. A little bit, but not much. It's more about, that's why we call it a justice system rather than a crime prevention system, Nominative determinism notwithstanding. The point is, the law existing doesn't stop you from murdering anyone or running a stop sign or attempting to rob a bank. A security guard might stop you, but the law can't stop you.
Yeah.
So, that tangent had a point. Yay.
There is no God, then what's so special about human beings? They're just accidental byproducts of nature, which have evolved relatively recently on an infinitesimal speck of dust, lost somewhere in a hostile and mindless universe, and which are doomed to perish individually and collectively in a relatively short time.
I'm so glad he mentions perishing.
Okay, stop.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is all argument from consequence,
Mhm.
right? Like I don't like that we're just on a speck of dirt, you know, hurtling through the space, in the universe, because I don't like it. Like this is not a reason to believe there is any kind of God. It is just saying, well, without a God, we are in this situation. The honest person would go, well, we seem to be in this situation. Is there any evidence for a God? Not, well, without it, I don't feel great about this situation. And it has been sort of suggested to me, like maybe people cannot, they need God in order to function. I don't believe that's the case. I know a lot of atheists, they function just well and, usually have a better moral compass than most of the theists I'm aware of. So I don't think we need this. I don't think ordinary people need this. I think that Christianity has convinced society that without it, people are just running rampant and, they have no hope and things like that. I don't think that is the case. I do not think that is the case. I think that people will enjoy their lives more. They will take better care of this world. All kinds of things are better with no religion at all. Not thinking that, hey, some magic sky wizard is going to come down and save me from this universe. Like, I don't think we need that. We don't need it. Sorry, Amber, go ahead.
No, nor have we seen
I just wanted to
any
rant a bit.
sign of such a being occurring. You make me think of a thing Hitchens
Right.
mentioned in a previous debate. Again, all our past debates in a playlist, which is linked in the description. But Hitchens brought up a book from the turn of the 20th century. I believe it was called When It Was Dark or Before It Was Dark, something along those lines. And it's a story of archaeologists who find the lost tomb of Jesus. Because remember, the most important site in all of Christian history, the empty tomb, no one knows where it is. Okay, but archaeologists find the tomb. Somehow they determine it's Jesus's, and there's a body in it. And so they go, oh, Christianity's false. The empty tomb isn't empty. Jesus just died. He just died and he's in the tomb, which may be a good reason why we lost the tomb, but whatever. It's a fictional story. Christianity is proven false. The premise of the story, then, is that everyone in the world, even the people who aren't Christian, suddenly flip out and go crazy because if Christianity's false, there's no morals and everyone just commits all the crimes. It's the purge 24/7 all around the world. And it's a fascinating story because that's not how anything works. But that's what Christians like Craig think would happen if you took Christianity off the table. And that just goes to show the mind of the believers. They believe, at least the ones who think along the lines of Craig, that without this barrier keeping their behavior in check, without this threat of infinite punishment, maybe not they personally, but a good chunk of humanity would behave like amoral psychopaths immediately.
Yeah.
And that's kind of terrifying that they think that way about people. And they're...
Well, I don't think that's the case. I mean, I was in a debate against that fill-in for Andrew Wilson, the guy that filled in for him. And he sort of said, oh, if I didn't believe in God, I'd just be out murdering and stealing and doing whatever I could. And it's like, would you though? I mean, first I said, well, that's horrifying. But secondly, would you though? Would you just not care about your wife or your children or, your friends or your family? Would you just go, well, I'll just go to prison because I want to do all of these things? Of course you wouldn't. You would still care about all the same stuff that you'd still care about your work. You would still care about your friends. You would still care about your family. You would probably still care about other human beings. The idea that would suddenly vanish, that you have no concern for anybody else's if Jesus isn't real. I don't think that is. I think that is something that these people that Christians have been convinced by their pastors and their representatives and all of these people that if you didn't have Jesus, you would just be out there berserk doing whatever. And I don't think that's true. I think people would be still like, I still have a family to provide for. I still have my son and my daughter to feed. I still have my friends I want to hang out with. I still have, I care about, they might do charity work for an organization. We've seen tons of people deconvert from Christianity. Do you know how many of them went crazy and just became a mass murderer? None of them. None of them. Okay? It doesn't happen. I don't know why they think this. I can only blame their pastors and priests and people that convince them they would be a monster without God.
I'm thinking of two things. First, as Left-Handed Jedi pointed out in the chat, we've covered a debate where a theist did say that without God, he would go on a murder rampage. It was David Wood. That's part of his whole shtick, is I am a psychopath. I tried to murder my father with a hammer, and Jesus saved me. Which is a very questionable story, but whatever, that notwithstanding. The other thing that comes to mind is our friend and community member, Neil the 604 Atheist, who, with Mikey Famine, does deconversion stories. He's collected over 500 deconversion stories. Yeah. None of those people who deconverted went on a murder rampage. Weird. You'd think with over 500, there'd be at least one, but maybe there's a selection bias. Maybe the ones who did are in prison and couldn't go on Neil's show, I suppose. But it's clearly not a very common thing.
You look at very secular countries where religiosity is very low, like Japan or China or something like that. Well, yeah, they've got crime, but it's not as bad over there. Like, the Japanese people aren't horrendous mass murderers, all of them, because they don't have Jesus. They've got things that they do, but, so does every country out there. It doesn't seem to be Christianity that provides this, great moral compass. To be honest with you, a better cultural responsibility and social responsibility provides a better moral foundation than Christianity does. Sorry, that's just the way it is.
There's a lot to say on these. Craig just steamrolls these things, and then we have to unpack the nuance, and then it's Brandolini's law. Dispelling bullshit takes 10 times as much effort as spewing the bullshit.
Yep.
Yeah, let's try to finish his opening statement at least.
And let's just remind them again, this is Christianity's best work.
According to this isn't us putting a crown on Craig's head. He is the one that they have generally collectively picked and anointed as their highest representative of intelligentsia. Shrug.
On the atheistic view, some action, say rape, may not be socially advantageous, and so in the course of human development has become taboo. But that does absolutely nothing to prove that rape is really wrong. On the atheistic view, there's nothing really wrong with your raping someone.
Hold on. Technically, that's correct, in that the atheistic view has nothing to say on the subject of morality. It's...
Correct.
That's just a question, an answer to a single question. Do you believe in a god or gods? Are you convinced? Do you worship? That's it. It doesn't say anything about what's right or wrong. That said, I don't really care if you're looking at the secular humanists like Mark and myself, or the other side of the atheistic community where they're basically Christian nationalists pretending not to be Christian. Both of us would say, we would come together on this and say that is wrong because it hurts someone.
Yeah.
You don't need to invoke a god to explain why it's wrong, and in fact, if you think that it's only wrong because God says so, that kind of makes you a monster.
Thus, without God, there is no absolute right and wrong which imposes itself on our conscience. But the problem is that objective values do exist, and deep down I think we all know it. There's no more reason to deny the objective reality of moral values than the objective reality of the physical world.
What's that?
Appeal to emotion.
Oh, for sure.
Like, we all know, deep down, we know that they exist. All he's appealing to is people's feelings. Like, oh, I feel like there should be I feel really strongly that there should be objective morality. And to be honest with you, I mean, I'm a moral non-realist, anti-realist. I don't think there is objective morality, only relativistic morality. But it would be nice if there was, right? It would be nice if there was just a objective, this is right and this. It would make things so simple. It would make things really simple, because you would know outright what's right and what's wrong, and there's none of this gray area, no trolley problems, right? It would just be that is it, right? But morality's messy. Like as Ember pointed out before, ending someone's life is a matter of, are you acting in self-defense? Are you doing this? Are you what's the circ? It gets messy. It would be nice, but we don't do wishful thinking over here. Ember and I, we don't do wishful thinking. Things are what they are. We don't go, well, everybody deep down knows. No, it doesn't matter what we feel deep down. That is not how we evaluate the reality around us. How we feel deep down, right? We actually take reality for what it is, what we can observe, test, demonstrate, and think rationally about. This is irrational. This is just, hey, wouldn't you like there to be this thing?
Yeah. As it happens, I recently had occasion to have a whole shit ton of medical tests done. And we, the doctors got some pretty decent scans of my heart as well as my other organs. And it turns out there's no morals written anywhere on it. They looked and looked.
Wow.
Couldn't find it.
Wow.
It's a mystery. Yeah.
But the book says it's written on your heart.
But the book said a thing.
Yeah, the book says a thing. How could it be wrong? How could it be wrong?
And you know who else says a thing? Jester, Lord of Shenaniganery, sends $5.
Cool. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jester. And says, when I deconverted, the final nail in the Christian cross was that by accepting that I didn't believe, I could stand by my own morality instead of the mess. And that's fucking valid, because as we often say, the fucking tagline for this channel is you are better than religion, because you are. I don't care if you're a believer watching who thinks that Mark and I are doing the work of Satan. You are better than the God described in that book. Because if you were in a position to cause a global flood, let's say, you would be driven by your internal morality to not kill the innocent children, or at least kill fewer of them, or do something. All you have to do to be better than that God, to be better than that religion, is just kill one less child. That's perfect morality, so easily overcome. Yeah, you are better than religion. You're more moral than that God.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and to answer another question that scrolled by while we're on the chat is Music by Brian 2024 asks, why is Ember dying? I'm not necessarily dying. I'm in kind of bad shape though. It's a whole thing. It'd be a whole show. I've explained it in a bit more detail previously. TLDR, those medical tests I just mentioned, there's a lot that's wrong, and it's been very expensive to try to treat things, and I'm still not better. There's some things that aren't healing, and etc. But the stuff that already exists, very expensive. I'm buried under medical bills, and I still need more medical care in order to not die. So that's what the fundraiser is for. Is I was forced out of my job. I don't have health insurance. Well, I will have Medicaid when the cards show up, but I have this 5-figure pile of medical bills, and I still need more medical care just to recover from the shit that's happened in the past. So that's why that's there. Thank you for asking, because I should be talking about that more.
Look, I don't. I could find it very easy to go on a whole rant about the US medical system being a appalling crime against humanity, but I'll save it. It is inhuman to make someone decide between abject poverty and extreme debt and their life. That's inhuman. It's absolutely repulsive. It is antithetical to human dignity. I find, like, I do not have the words to describe how disgusting it is, and how disgusting it is that this particular administration is now destroying an already crippled and insufficient system. It is reprehensible. I do not have the words to describe it. I don't, because we do theology, I don't get a lot into political stuff. I do it occasionally when I feel strongly. I last time I went to the hospital was basically a tooth issue, essentially, and it cost me $0. Okay, I just walked into the hospital, got treated, had a bed, got surgery, walked out, and that's it. That was the entire experience. Okay, that is what we're talking about. Like, this should be a thing.
Mm-hmm. It should, and it could be. If we had a society that was actually founded on moral values, objective or otherwise, that would be a high priority, because that's one way. And it's not even about being nice or being good or minimizing suffering. It serves the interests of capitalism too, because by having healthy people, you have effective workers.
Correct.
Oh. This is just, it's,
you know,
the way we do things is so fucking stupid.
Well, we still pay for, like, you know, the government covers part of the, like, seeing a doctor or that kind of stuff. But, you know, emergency care, you know, I just, and for it to be the wealthiest country in the history of humanity, the wealthy, they have, like, you guys are the wealthiest. It's insane. It's like looking over to your neighbor who is the wealthiest on the street, has a mansion, has all this stuff, and they're feeding their kids dog food or something. Like, it is just insane that you guys. I'm sorry. I'm gonna shut up, but I am appalled.
Yeah, we're pretty mad about it here too. I have to laugh because it's one of those situations where literally everyone, regardless of how they identify politically, is furious about it all the time. And yet we keep voting for the same assholes who keep making it worse. And I don't understand.
Yep. That's why Luigi is currently a hero, because, you know, at a certain point you can understand why he did it, because holy crap, people are desperate. It's, you know, I get it. I don't condone it. I condemn his actions, but at the same time, I totally understand. Sorry, tangents in the chat for me. I'm sorry, I got way off topic, and
many
mad
tangents.
about
many
the entire
tangents.
thing. Yeah,
it's all good. Like I said, I feel really, really bad, first of all, because talking about what has happened to me is not what any of my shows are actually about. And so it feels like a distraction from the point. But also because I grew up and spent most of my life being told by everyone around me that I don't matter, that my needs don't matter, that whatever I'm going through counts less than the slightest inconvenience of everyone around me. And this wasn't just my parents, it was the other parent of my children and other people I've known, and the way we do jobs around here. This is a message that has been reinforced my entire fucking life. And so it is really, really hard for me to ask for help, and so I tend not to, even when I really, really need it. So I appreciate the opportunity to mention the damn thing, because it's so hard for me to say I need help, but I really need help. So yeah. Now I feel all kinds of awkward. Hey, let's do the thing, shall we?
yeah.
Actions
Speaking
like
of awkward,
rape,
here's Will and
cruelty, and
Craig.
child
Yes.
abuse aren't just socially unacceptable behavior. They're moral abominations. Some things are really wrong. Similarly, love, equality, and self-sacrifice are really good. Thus, we can summarize this third consideration as follows. Premise 1, if God does not exist, objective moral values do not exist. 2,
Fair.
objective values do exist.
No.
That's not
3,
true.
therefore,
No, that's not fair at all.
No,
Because
you're
you can
right.
base
That's not
like
a correct
a
if-then.
Yeah, because a number of atheists have, like I've said, they've appealed to biological, they've appealed to evolution, they've appealed to, social systems based. They appeal to objective morality that doesn't come from a god. So no, that is not true.
Yeah, premise 1 falls apart. Premise 2, he hasn't demonstrated premise 1. That's another thing that needs a whole syllogism to justify, and he can't do it. But whatever. But
Yeah.
premise 2, no, there are objective moral values. There aren't. We've talked about this a lot, but just no.
God exists. Number 4, the historical facts concerning the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus.
Oh, we're finally on Jesus. It's not just
Where did that come from?
right, because this whole
Wow.
thing, we could have granted every single argument, and we're like, okay, let's say, well, I'll grant you all of it. As terrible as it's been, where do we go from here?
Yeah.
It could be leprechauns, it could be the Blarney Stone, it could be Doug, it could be Elisa the Rainbow Giraffe Leaf
Correct,
be upon
yeah.
her. How do we know? Now suddenly
Yeah.
we're on Jesus. This is what he should have started with, because if Jesus is a supernatural being and the Son of God, that kind of implies that the God he's the son of also exists. Like, if he could prove this, he didn't need any of the rest of that. Did we just waste 2 hours on Bill Craig doing intellectual masturbation?
Isn't that usually what Bill Craig does?
Well, yeah, I
mean,
suppose. It's his
Is that
profession.
unusual? Is that something unexpected? Or
Oh my.
The historical person, Jesus of Nazareth, was a remarkable individual. New Testament critics have reached something of a consensus that the historical Jesus came on the scene with an unprecedented sense of divine authority, the authority to stand and speak in God's place. He claimed that in himself the kingdom of God had come, and as visible demonstrations of this fact, he carried out a ministry of miracles and exorcisms. But the supreme confirmation of his claim was his resurrection from the dead. If Jesus did rise from the dead, then it would seem that we have a divine miracle on our hands, and thus evidence for the existence of God. Now,
Well, there's a few problems there. The first is that Jesus supposedly, according to the stories, raised other people. Do their resurrections make them divine beings? Is Lazarus a divine being because he also returned from the dead? That's an issue. But also, Christianity isn't the only religion to make these claims, and some of them have much stronger evidence for their claims. Sai Baba is one of my favorite examples, who, while he himself did not rise from the dead, he claimed to be the reincarnation of a previous Sai Baba, and in theory will be reincarnated again. That's a whole different system of divine beingness, because it's in India, they've got the reincarnation cycle. But
same with Dalai Lama is supposed to be an incarnation.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But Sai Baba did himself perform several resurrections, which is proof of his divine power, thus confirming his theology. And not only is Sai Baba recent, like he died in something like 2011, there are millions of people. We hear in the New Testament about 500 unnamed witnesses. There are millions of people still alive today who claim to have witnessed Sai Baba's miracles. And not only do they have claims, some of them took fucking videos. This is way better evidence than anything we have for Jesus, yet Craig remains unconvinced at the divinity of Sai Baba. So, double standard much? Now, to be clear, I'm unconvinced of the divinity of Sai Baba as well, but at least I'm intellectually consistent. That doesn't convince me, and neither does Jesus.
most people would probably think that the resurrection of Jesus is something you just either believe in by faith or not. But there are actually 3 established facts recognized by the majority of New Testament historians today, which I believe are best explained by the resurrection of Jesus.
There's a lot of loaded language here.
Is that Habermas's minimal facts argument? Because that one's kind of crappy to begin with.
It's pretty bad.
If he's piggybacking on Habermas's minimal facts, I don't know what he thinks these 7 things are, but if it's his minimal facts thing, that's pretty crap to begin with.
Well, even the framing is crap and somewhat misleading. Like, first of all, he said the majority of New Testament scholars, not historians, New Testament scholars. And that's important because the majority of New Testament scholars work at Bible schools where they have to sign statements of faith saying they affirm the Bible is true and infallible and all that crap. So they have to agree with these things or they lose their job. The second thing is, if these Bible scholars...
Just say, good pickup. I didn't even notice that. That was a really good pickup. Sorry, what was the second thing? I just wanted to compliment you because I missed that completely.
Yeah, well, it's the sneaky loaded language he likes to use. And, you know, I see it because I've seen it so many times. But the other thing is he says, if these things, yada, yada... I believe the best explanation is this. So the things don't demonstrate this explanation. It's Bill's personal belief that the best explanation. It's not founded on anything. There's no data. It's his personal belief that the best explanation is Jesus. Jesus is magic. There's an undead carpenter ghost, and he wants to live inside you.
And Liam in the chat points out he is all about the huge ifs. And yeah, I've noticed that about Craig. A lot of the time he says, if this is the case, then all of these things are entailed and then goes on down the list. But all of it rides upon that if. And he makes absolutely no even attempt to go back and say, hey, one side of this if is much more likely because of this. He just puts it out there and then continues with all these entailments and forgets to go back and sort of say, hey, it's more likely to be Jesus or more likely to be this side of that conditional if. You know, it's absolutely ridiculous.
So yeah, there's a lot of loaded language in the way he's presenting this stuff. And this is why we do these shows, is to show you all the tricks they're using and unpack them, to show the red flags and the false equivalencies and how to address them. And also it's fun. But there is a point. We're not just gorgeous people being on screen for your visual pleasure. That too, but
I'm not even gorgeous people.
Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, my friend.
Okay.
Actually, let's. I want to do a poll, but it would be rude. I mean, your hair did win the earlier poll, so there's that.
And my hair always wins.
Fact number 1. On the Sunday following his crucifixion, Jesus' tomb was found empty by a group of his women followers.
That's not a fact, Bill. That's a claim in the book of mythology.
And it's not even a consistent claim, because in the books it varies. In one of them it was one woman, in one of it was the women. It doesn't say how many it was. And it's inconsistent in what they found. One, they saw an angel, another they saw a man. What the hell?
Yeah. Like, what are we doing here? Like, as we ranted about a little while back, we don't even have the tomb. We don't know there was a tomb. It's part of the damn story.
Right.
Like, Paul, right? All the historians, the New Testament scholars, if you prefer, all of them talk about the earliest writings. The closest to the resurrection we have are Paul's letters. You want to guess how many times Paul talked about the empty tomb? It's a very round number. Paul doesn't mention it, ever.
And here's a hint. It's less than 100. Yeah.
It
He
is
absolutely
less than 100.
doesn't mention it.
Isn't it weird that
Yeah.
if that's the
Yeah, it's
most
less than
important
one.
fact in Christianity, that Paul never mentions it?
Yep.
Wild.
And I might add that Jesus was such a great person that Joseph of Arimathea, who we don't have any other record of this person outside of the Bible, not one record of this guy wealthy enough to afford a noble's tomb. He was so important that this guy gave him a tomb, and Paul doesn't mention that.
It's almost like it was
At
made up
all.
after the fact or something. For literary
No.
purposes,
No.
maybe.
Christians making up stories and then adding them into works, that would never happen, except that's called Christian interpolation and happened all the time.
Another one that Craig may mention is the writings of Josephus, who was a historian based in Jerusalem who lived shortly after Jesus, and yada yada. And often they'll go, oh, there's all these historians, these extra biblical sources that attest to Jesus's life and existence, and Josephus, because of proximity in both distance and time, often gets invoked as one of those. The problem is the reference in Josephus doesn't appear until the 4th century. Everyone who talks about that work of Josephus, the Antiquities of the Jews, I believe, before Origen, doesn't mention it. It's just not there. And then suddenly Origen mentions it, but everybody else who has a copy of Josephus's work can't find the passage he's talking about. It's almost like Origen put it in there, and everyone at the time knew it, which is why the next reference to it doesn't happen for centuries later, and that's a reference back to Origen, talking about it being in Josephus. Almost like it was made up.
And we know that it was added to it not only because the style of writing Josephus has is very distinctive and it flows really well, except for these few passages that talk about Jesus being the Messiah. Strange that they don't fit with the rest of his writing. And we know because Josephus wrote about himself as well, and other people wrote about Josephus, he was a lifelong devout Jew. Now, the problem is that if he said that, hey, Jesus was the Messiah, there's a problem there, isn't there? That is not what Jews believed, that he was still a Jew at the end of his life, i.e., he didn't think the Messiah had come. So there's a problem there. So what we now know is that the early church wrote this and inserted it into Josephus's work. And it happened a lot through a lot of different areas, that the early church would revise things that they thought they could get away with.
Yeah. I mean, hell, they revised their own scriptures that there's a gazillion copies of.
The other one that Christians bring up is Tacitus. And that's even stupider, because Tacitus wrote that there were a bunch of people around called Christians who believed that their God was a man who rose from the dead. And they say, oh, look, Tacitus wrote about Jesus. And it's like, no, he didn't. He wrote about Christians.
Yeah. I mean, we can write about... He
didn't mention, he didn't say, hey, Jesus rose. Yeah.
We could write right now. There was this cult called Heaven's Gate, and they believed there were aliens hiding behind a comet.
Right.
Same thing. We talk about the group and what they believed. Yeah. There was a group. There really was. Does that mean there were aliens behind the comet? Probably not.
Probably not.
I mean, I'm not sure. I wasn't there, as the apologists like to put it, but probably not.
You weren't? Damn. Probably a good thing, actually, now that I come to think about it, because a lot of... Yeah, okay, let's not get into that. That's a whole nother... Well, all right. Well, that's sort of the, I think that a lot of the time that they these minimal facts, they kind of, I don't know. I don't know about that one, Chief.
Yeah, they're not
I don't
facts
know.
and they're not convincing. But ultimately, it goes back to what we were saying earlier.
Right.
If they could actually demonstrate their claims, they wouldn't need to play these word games. They could just demonstrate their
Right.
claims. The fact they have to do this is itself proof that they can't, which, given the framework of the claim they're making, itself demonstrates their claim is false.
Well, an interesting thing would be, what would be the falsifiability criteria for this? How would you falsify this claim? Right. So we know that, and I've read a lot of Karl Popper, the idea of something being unfalsifiable, it should be considered not true until you can falsify it. Right. Not until you can gather stuff that says, hey, we can support it with this. No, when it's falsifiable, when you have a distinct way to say, hey, this is false. Because if it can never be falsified, it's not even worth considering it to be true. It just isn't.
Yeah, like Feynman said, it's not even wrong because you can't show if it's wrong or not. Like you can't say it's wrong necessarily, but you don't have any reason to believe it's true until someone gives you a reason to believe it's true. Something you can falsify and say, if this, then that.
Yeah.
Like, it's so frustrating.
Yep.
According to Jakob Kramer, an Austrian scholar who has specialized in the study of the resurrection,
Name drop.
quote, by far, most scholars hold firmly to the reliability of the biblical statements about the empty tomb, end quote. Fact number 2, on separate occasions, different individuals and groups saw appearances of Jesus alive after his death.
Fact number 2, many individuals and groups have observed appearances of Elvis after his death. So what?
and I want to reframe this, because he's saying that he knows that they actually did see Jesus. No, the correct way to describe this, many people claimed to see Jesus after his death, right? Like, you've got to understand this, that he doesn't know he hasn't talked to them. They haven't been recorded. If he's talking about the 500 people that Paul talked about, well, who is that?
Yeah, we don't even have names. It's just there. I have here a list of 500 people, but no, you can't see it. It is not for your mortal eyes. Hell, you're not even literate because it's the 1st century. You know, it's so fucking wild. Like, even if these people actually did claim to see Jesus, which, again, that's a claim and not a demonstrated fact. It's a story in the storybook.
Correct.
And nowhere else. But okay. But even if that were the case, so what? You know, there's people who still see Billy Mays. It's just people claim to see people who've died even today. That's even if it were a fact, it's not a useful fact.
According to the prominent
but it's
German
not a fact that they saw them. That's what I'm pointing out. The fact is they claim to see them, not that they saw them, because a fact has to be generally accepted by everybody to be true. And I accept the fact they claim to see him. But this is where William Lane Craig does some dodgy stuff with words. He misses over that it's a claim and says that it's a fact that they saw Jesus. That is not a fact. No, absolutely not.
And you don't even have to finish law school to observe that one.
Correct.
I'm still mad I couldn't finish law school. My life would have gone on a vastly different trajectory, but I am still mad about it.
Critic Gaut Ludemann, it may be taken as historically certain that the disciples had experiences after Jesus' death in which Jesus appeared to them as the risen Christ.
In which they claim Jesus appeared to them. And even that I would still call suspect. Even the claim isn't a fact. There is a claim that they made a claim that Jesus appeared to them. You know, it's like a double layer of hearsay. That makes it very much not a fact, but okay.
These appearances were witnessed not only by believers, but also by unbelievers, skeptics, and even enemies. Fact number 3. The original disciples...
Is he talking about Paul?
I think he is.
I think that unbelievers, skeptics is Paul, basically.
I mean, he doesn't say, but that seems to be the obvious choice he's pointing at. Maybe he should say. I don't know. Because, like, Paul notoriously never actually met Jesus.
Yeah.
He just, according to the story, we have no verification of it, but according to the story, he was on the road to Damascus, fell down, and had a fucking vision. And suddenly he's like super Christian. He's so super Christian that, according to the story, the other disciples knelt at his feet. Because he's the one telling the story. Weird how that works, right?
Yeah.
Came to believe in the resurrection of Jesus, despite their having every predisposition to the contrary. Jews had no belief in a dying, much less a rising Messiah.
True.
And Jewish beliefs about the afterlife precluded anyone's rising from the dead before the end of the world. Nevertheless, the original disciples suddenly came to believe in the resurrection of Jesus so strongly that they were willing to die for the truth of that belief.
Again, this is an old one, but he still says this shit today, even though it's been debunked to hell and back. We don't know that they died for the belief. We don't know if they were given a chance to recant the belief, or if they were just killed, or if they were killed for another reason. I'm thinking of Kirk Cameron. Kirk Cameron wrote like a children's book for a company called Brave Books, which is not really children's books. It's more MAGA anti-woke, pretending to be children's books, but whatever. He wanted to go read books in a library. Matt Walsh did the same thing to promote his book. They wanted to go read books in the library. The library sent back, here's the application to reserve a time to come read your book. And they refused to fill it out.
Yeah.
And then turned around and said, this library is letting in drag queens, but banned us. It's the same thing.
They filled in the form. Those drag queens filled in the form and had, stuff like background checks if you're working with children is always a good thing. There's nothing wrong with having a background check if working with children.
Yeah, these guys at Brave Books, Matt Walsh, Kirk Cameron, they deliberately went against the process and then said they were denied. And there's receipts out of it. It's such a wild claim. But the people who believe this kind of shit will never double check. They just take their favorite asshole's word for it.
Of course not.
And it's the same thing here. It's people making claims that, if you even scratch the surface of them, are obviously false and not at all what happened. Did the disciples, were they even killed because they were Christian? Because they were claiming Jesus?
We don't know.
We don't even know.
We don't know.
We know a couple of them were martyred according to the story, but we don't know the fates of most of them. And we don't, like...
Most of them, yeah.
Joseph Smith died for his beliefs,
Especially Paul.
You know?
Well, the important thing about that is that the Mormons say he was martyred, even though he was killed. Like so in Mormonism, not familiar with it, Joseph Smith had to move from state to state, and he did things that were problematic to communities. So in one community, he got a bunch of militia around him and was kind of taking over the town, right? Like in a sort of, cultish kind of way, sort of using this militia to take over the town, and the people were not happy about it. So a paper published a story about how he was doing this, and he got very angry and took his people away and destroyed the printing press that was printing it. Like all saviors do when they, are God-given, they always crack down on free press. So this was a crime, destroying the free press. So he was arrested, tossed in jail. He tried to escape from jail and was shot escaping. or a mob came to get him or something because they wanted to off him. So yeah, it wasn't really that he died as a martyr because of his beliefs. He committed a crime, was in prison, and a mob shot him when he was in prison.
Yeah.
Is that a martyrdom? No, of course not.
Yeah, and does it make Mormonism true? Probably not.
No.
And so it's the same sort of thing. Like, if St. Peter, the story says he was crucified upside down, yada, yada, was he killed for back taxes? Does that make Christianity true? Like, none of this actually backs up any of the damn claims. Half of it's more than speculative at best.
And considering the amount the early church fathers, they always talk about these early church fathers and how they would know what's going on. The amount of times that we've seen those early church fathers who they hold up as these paradigms of evidence or paragons of evidence have inserted things into other people's books or manipulated things so it looks like the church has more authority than it should. We've got a record of all of that. I would not trust them that these stories that Peter was hung upside down and crucified upside down, I would not trust them. I just wouldn't, because they have a history of manipulating events in their favor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you start falsifying records, all your records become suspect. But also, there's another level to this, because the bullshit is just fucking endless with these assholes. Even if we took what Craig said and we just grant it, just like all the other things you've said, we just grant the argument. Cool. Where does that leave us? If a person does die for their sincere beliefs and they're killed for their beliefs, they die as a consequence of their faith, then Islam is exactly as true as Christianity. Buddhism is exactly as true as Christianity. So we still aren't getting to Christianity is true, because there's other religions that meet that exact same criterion. And we're, again, so what?
Yeah, and I want to proffer something else, that just because somebody dies for a movement like Christianity, it may not be because the supernatural claims are true. Like, if you compare Christianity with sort of what was around at the time, the Roman Empire was very brutal and authoritarian. The idea that Jesus was preaching, fairness and charity towards people and being nice towards people and sort of having a community, it may have just been because they were better ideas than what was around at the time. There's nothing, inherently wrong with some of Christianity's pronouncements. Be kind to your neighbors, sort of love thy neighbor, and treat people with respect, and don't judge people. There's nothing inherently wrong about that, and it may have been appealing to people. They may have thought that ideology was worth dying for. People have died for less in the past.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as Paulogia puts it, so what? A person can be sincerely mistaken. It doesn't prove there's magic.
Sure. Yep.
Craig is not doing well. He's got like a minute left. Let's see if he can land a point, maybe.
Oh, yeah, he's going to pull it out in a minute. Yeah, absolutely. I have faith, right?
Yes. A Hail Mary, so named because it requires a miracle.
Yeah.
Luke Johnson, a New Testament scholar from Emory University, muses, some sort of powerful, transformative experience is required to generate the sort of movement earliest Christianity was. N.T. Wright, an eminent British scholar, concludes, that is why, as an historian, I cannot explain the rise of early Christianity unless Jesus rose again, leaving an empty tomb behind him. Attempts to explain away...
Well, that's just stupid, because like we said before, Paul never mentions it. It wasn't part of his sales pitch. And he spread early Christianity. And there were all these churches he wrote to, like Paul's writings are letters to other churches. None of them talk about an empty tomb either. So it spread just fine without that part of the story.
Correct.
So it doesn't matter that a modern day person can't explain it. It happened.
And I might add that I don't think it necessarily needs to have this supernatural explanation if people find it more appealing than what is currently available. Don't forget that Jesus was kind of a doomsday guy. He thought that the end of the world would be coming within his lifetime. And the way that it is written, it sort of suggests the overthrow of this evil empire. And a lot of scholars think he's talking about the Roman Empire.
Mhm.
Guess what? The Jewish people did not like being under Roman occupation. In the 2nd century, there was the first Judeo-Roman war that broke out in Jerusalem. Basically, they tried to overthrow the Roman occupation. Like, this is a people that have been subjugated. You can see parallels maybe in Iran, where the US installed the Shah as a ruthless dictator, and it was overthrown by the people helping out the Shiite Islamic religion, because they were the ones to overthrow it. It may be similar. It doesn't necessarily mean supernatural.
Yeah, we have yet to see the magic. Show me the magic, Bill.
Yes.
He's not going to show us the magic. Spoilers, I know.
These 3 great facts, like the disciples stole the body or Jesus wasn't really dead, have been universally rejected by contemporary scholarship. The simple fact is that there just is no plausible, naturalistic explanation of these 3 facts. And therefore, it seems to me, the Christian is amply justified in believing that Jesus rose from the dead and was who he claimed to be. But that entails that God exists. Finally, number 5.
Even that's not true. Like, he just re-said the same things. We've already dispelled those, so I'm happy to set those aside. Even if all of what he said were actually true, which it is not, and Jesus did rise from the dead, which we have no reason to think, aside from the storybook, which has obvious fiction in it, but whatever, that does not necessarily entail that Yahweh, the Heavenly Father, whatever, behind him is there and did it. Jesus could be a fucking necromancer. Like, that's just one possible answer. In a world where magic exists, why the hell not?
I'm not saying aliens, but aliens.
I mean, at least it's
I just love
naturalistic.
that meme. I love that guy. Look, this is my my Star Trek review. Like, so if you're unfamiliar with Star Trek, they a lot of time went back in time to the modern era because, hey, it's cheap on sets, right?
It's true.
If they could just throw people in a street and have cars around and stuff. So a lot of the time in Star Trek, they went back in time or whatever, and they would have to pull off something using their modern technology, modern as in Star Trek technology. And like, I thought about this and I thought, is any of the miracles that Jesus did, could that be done by the crew of the Enterprise using their technology? And all of it can be, right? Like, all of it can be like replicators to make, fish loaves and fishes, and teleporters to like teleport somebody out of the tomb and stuff. Like, all of it can be done using the Enterprise. So, I'm not making any claims. I think it's funny that, I would love to see the Star Trek episode where they went back in time and realized that in order to overthrow the Roman Empire, they had to like do all this magic for Jesus. I think that would be hilarious. Absolutely hilarious.
A Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure where they have to go back and like set up the miracles so Christianity could happen to prevent a paradox so that they could get the telephone box.
Right. Exactly. And I would love to see that. I might. Who's the guy, the Family Guy dude that does the parody Star Trek parody?
Seth
show?
MacFarlane.
Seth MacFarlane, yeah. write him and say, hey, I've got a good episode. You know how mad that would make Christians? Do you know how angry they would be?
Mm-hmm.
They would be furious, and it would be hilarious.
I would love to see it. I don't know. Oh, wow. We come up with better ideas than the fucking Christians do. I mean, well, creativity's allowed on our side of the fence, so, you know, there's that. Oh, for fuck's sake. All right, let's try to finish this.
Immediate experience of God. This isn't really an argument for God's existence. Rather, it's the claim that you can know that God exists wholly apart from arguments simply by immediately experiencing him. This was the way that people in the Bible knew God. As Professor John Hick explains, God was known to them as a dynamic will, interacting with their own wills, a sheer, given reality, as inescapably to be reckoned with as destructive storm and life-giving sunshine. To them, God was not an idea adopted by the mind, but an experiential reality which gave significance to their lives. Now, if this is the case, then there's a danger.
Okay. But how is that different than any other god in history where people are like, well, you know what, I can experience Zeus. And those things that you described, like sunlight and storms, no one's arguing that those don't exist. We can prove those exist. But your feelings are not a god.
Yeah, as to put it in a context that many people might be familiar with, because it's been talked about a bit recently, because of the rise of fundamental evangelicalism and other extremist versions of Christianity, this idea that you can experience the Holy Spirit, and that's the only way to truly understand the Bible. You need the Holy Spirit to guide your powers of discernment and whatnot. If this Holy Spirit exists, and you can experience it, then how is it that this Holy Spirit has guided people into 43,000 different versions of Christianity that don't agree? It doesn't track. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't follow. The thing that does make sense is people are hearing their own voices, their own thoughts inside their head and saying, oh, this is what divinity feels like. And so I'm right unquestionably because I'm following what the magic voice in my head says. Just like everyone else who is wrong, you know? Yeah. It's mind-bogglingly bad. But also, Craig made this same argument in his debate with Christopher Hitchens, and I'm not sure which one came before the other. I think this was the earlier. When we reviewed the Hitchens debate, I sincerely hoped that that was the first time he'd made that argument. He said, all the shit I said, you don't even need it. You can feel the warmth of a burning bosom from the Holy Spirit, yada, yada. Why did you say all of that then? If you were just going to say, I has feels though. Like, if that's your main argument, start with that, you know? Like, why?
Well, it's because that's too, like, because when you're basically relying on just a feeling for your God belief, for instance, a lot of doubt creeps in. So all of that is to make that justification to reinforce the belief. It won't convince anybody. Like we said earlier, it's not to convince anybody. It is because it is to convince a theist that they were right in the first place about that burning bosom feeling, right? So I think a lot of Christianity does this. It's like this appeal to emotion, how you feel, what you wish were true. You know, do you feel valued? You know, we can't just be a speck of dust on a speck of dust floating in a sun. We can't be these things. It has to be, you have to be special. If you're not special, you feel bad, right? And then all of this other stuff like, oh, the theological argument and this argument is just to sort of, you know, reinforce that you were right all along because you have to be special.
Oh, but it's better than that. Not only are you special, you are God's favorite, in fact. But if you don't accept what I'm saying, if you don't believe on faith, these wonderful gifts I'm offering to you freely for only 10% of your income, plus weekly attendance at my thing and buy my DVDs and books, but it's a free gift.
Buy my DVDs.
You will burn in hell for all eternity. You will suffer in infinite torture.
Yeah.
Because he loves you.
He loves you and he needs money. All powerful, all knowing, all wise, just can't handle money. Yeah, George Carlin, rest in peace. What a guy.
Yeah,
Carlin was awesome.
It's fucking it's so many levels of crazy. But the reason I mention the fact that he made the same argument is because he made the same argument, right? Like if it were the first time, okay, you got to test out your material. It's bad, and he should have known it was bad. But surely someone told him, or a critic pointed out, dude, this is a really weak argument. You should drop that one. And yet he chose to use it again in another major debate. So he's not listening to anyone but the eternal Holy Spirit, apparently.
Correct.
This fucking guy.
For God could actually distract your attention from God himself. If you're sincerely seeking God, then God will make his existence evident to you. The Bible promises, draw near to God, and he will draw near to you. We mustn't so concentrate on
Okay. So I can sincerely seek God out, but that's not what this means. What this means is believe that God exists already, right? This isn't a, hey, have an open mind and sincerely seek the truth of what is out there. This is put your faith in God and believe that he exists, and suddenly that feeling will come across you like he exists. Well, no shit, Sherlock. Like, of course, if I believed sincerely that Buddha would provide me that feeling, if I believed in it, it would provide, this is psychosomatic crap.
Yeah. So you just believe. Oh goodness.
It's kind of like that. So psychosomatic means that your mind is giving you physical effects, basically. Mm-hmm. That's what it means. So like it's usually used in reference to people that believe they're sick, like hypochondriacs, for instance. They believe they're sick, actually making themselves feel sick while doing it. It's that confirmation of your fervent belief. And that's all this is, a psychosomatic reaction.
But the burning in the bosom, though.
Can I recommend heartburn pills or something?
Oh, hey, I have some pink shit.
Oh, okay. All right. I don't know what pink shit is. I have no idea.
Oh, it's a discount version of a medicine, Pepto-Bismol, which it's just a solution of bismuth that it coats the digestive tract and like eliminates irritations throughout the entire system. I go through a lot of it because of some of the shit that I mentioned earlier. Like I said, there's a lot of story to that, and that's not what this show is for. But I happen to have some at hand because when we were about to start the show, I was having symptoms acting up of some of my medical issues, and I wanted to be able to do the show, so I took all the medicine I have, and then I brought other medicine I might need, including that. And fortunately, we've been pretty okay throughout the course of the show, aside from my fucking ears, but that's a whole other issue. Yeah. The point is, it's medicine that it's not for heartburn, but that's one of the things it can help with.
Yeah.
A little, anyway. It's not the best at that, but yeah.
Someone get Craig some Pepto-Bismol.
Yes.
Was it Pepto-Bismol?
Pepto-Bismol, okay. But yeah, I actually...
Oh, okay.
It's a Mariocentrism. I just kind of assumed that, like so many other products, that one was worldwide because it's like such a staple brand here, and I appear to have been mistaken about that. I mean, we don't. What is the? I can't think of the name of the product, but there's a product that's like famously Australian, but we don't actually have it here. But it's not important. Foster's, Australian for beer. Not that one, but Anyway.
Nobody drinks Foster's over here.
Nobody drinks Foster's over here either.
Yeah, fair call, fair call.
Journal proofs that we fail to hear the voice of God speaking to our own hearts. For those who listen, God becomes an immediate reality in their lives. In conclusion, then, we've yet to see any arguments.
And I should point out, this has been falsified a million times. Like, we can never know someone's subjective experience, but there have been so many people who did their very best to genuinely open themselves to God, including me. Now, again, you don't know how hard I tried. You didn't try hard enough. But it's never happened. And you can try it yourself. Yeah. And if you don't already believe, the odds are pretty high it won't happen for you either. So this isn't scientific per se, in that it's not externally observable and objectively repeatable. It's only subjectively observable. But you can do this test and find out that Craig is full of shit.
Yes, and we've got a parade of people that have deconverted from Christianity and other religions saying that they fervently believe. I mean, we've had pastors and ministers fervently believed that to be the truth, and then realized that, hey, it's just me feeling a certain way because of that confirmation bias. Now, Craig might go ahead and say, well, they never actually believed in the right way. I think after a certain point, you have to say, well, that is just horse crap. You know, that is totally nonsense. That is just basically excluding people from your study because they didn't get the result you want.
Yeah. It's just p hacking, data manipulation. Oh, it didn't go the way I wanted. Well, that one doesn't count. It's toddler logic. It's, I'm going to flip 10 heads in a row, and when it comes up tails, oh, that one doesn't count. Make up a reason why, but for whatever, it doesn't count because it didn't give me the result I wanted. Fucking children. And also, their logic is bad, but we're not talking about the problems with SA in the church right now. That's another show as well.
Yeah.
To show that God does not exist, and we have seen 5 reasons to think that God does exist. Together, these constitute a powerful cumulative case for the existence of God, and therefore I think that theism is the more plausible worldview.
Okay, that's Craig's opening. He did go slightly over, but whatever. Apparently, the timekeeper didn't. Maybe he like rang a bell or whatever, and Craig could like finish the paragraph he was on. They're very gentlemanly and polite and whatnot. Whatever, it's fine. Sorry, I forgot to turn the countdown off before I changed the scene. I forgot I have to do that. Okay, so there's Craig's opening. Are you impressed?
I'm not. I mean, it hasn't changed much over the years at all. I don't see anything in there that is particularly new or really, anything that he uses now that he wasn't using in that one. Maybe a few bits and pieces, but it's essentially all the same. He hasn't really changed his thing, because we've had a snapshot. If you don't know, we do these reviews a fair bit, and we've seen Craig against, this is probably the earliest William Lane Craig that we've seen. We've seen him against Hitchens a bit later on, and then Sean Carroll a bit later on, and then, against people like Alex O'Connor later on. And it's the same. It's exactly the same.
Yeah.
So, which I'm not saying he obviously thinks he's onto a good thing. I would disagree. I think that I think that people would have pointed out to him way back here that your ideas on cosmogony being the origin of the universe, are really flawed. I'm sure physicists would have jumped in and said, hey, that's not a very good description of the universe, basically, or the Big Bang, for instance, as an explosion and all of this kind of thing. But he's still using it, and I wonder why, except for, it appeals to Christians as arguments, which is not what you should be doing for arguments. The thing that got me most of all was him going, well, let's not strawman. Let's not strawman anything, and then proceeding to strawman all of cosmogony, all of physics and the origin of the universe physics that we know. Like, it was really, really egregious, the straw man that he put up there. his other arguments, and I agree with, I think it was Liam that pointed out, like all of it, it's nested within these if, right? All of these conditionals, it's almost like a slippery slope, that all of these things have to be true. His minimal facts that he said about the Jesus were so, they were not the facts that all of them agree on. They were not. They were basically, all of them agree that there was claimed an empty tomb. All of them agree that people claim to have seen Jesus. Well, they all agree on that. He's taking it to the next level and saying, oh, everybody agrees that these claims are true. No, they don't. And I think it was wonderful. It was wonderful that you picked up that he said, oh, this is agreed on by biblical scholars and not, ancient Levant historians, because historians would never say, well, there's a story by these people who lived in ancient times that something supernatural happened. Let's just believe it. You know what I mean? Like, historians would never do that, because that kind of thing is really outside of their purview. There's no way to prove it. There's no way to demonstrate it. There's no way to investigate it. It's just a story that came out. But it sort of reminds me that they sort of want to say, hey, well, the Bible's a history book. It isn't. No, absolutely not. A history book is something like what Josephus wrote. It is simply his observations of the world around him at the time. He didn't get into theology. He didn't write about gods or, angels or anything like that. He just wrote about events. That's a history book, not all this, mythological religious stuff.
Yeah, we don't see anything from, Pliny the Younger talking about how Zeus came down and personally smote the people of Vesuvius. Like, that's not how history works.
Mm-hmm.
It's freaking wild. Yeah. Oh, my goodness. Well, folks, if you, I hope you enjoyed that. We certainly did. If you'd like to see more on this debate, we'll be back on Mark's channel next weekend. Part
2.
Hell yeah. And we'll get to see Antony Flew's opening, which will doubtless be faster, and we'll probably get into the rebuttals. So, yay.
Yeah.
But we will,
so if you've never seen our reviews before, it is the weaker arguments that require more effort, because the stronger ones are kind of like, yes, this is true. Yes. Like if William Lane Craig would say, hey, lots of people claimed to have seen Jesus, we'd be like, yes, that is true. So what?
I mean, I'd want to know what he means by lots of people, but it still would be a shorter discussion.
Yeah, it certainly would. It certainly would. So yeah, the more evident the arguments, the less time we have to spend on debunking the crap out of them. So yeah, but come along, it's lots of fun, and we always switch every week. So we'll be back on Embers in 2 weeks, I guess. 2 weeks. Have I got that right? I do.
Yeah, yes. It's every other week. Generally, sometimes stuff comes up. Last week I was in Kentucky. Sometimes Mark has a debate. So occasionally there's a gap. But generally we go back and forth every other week. Mark's channel is linked in the description, and I see it just popped up in the side chat. So you have no excuse. Yeah. You are left without excuse.
Oh, you can find excuses, quite frankly. You can find these excuses. I'll download what you've sent me. Thank you, Ems.
Hell yeah.
Do you mind if I go through what I've got coming up? Because I had a debate last week. It didn't go through because of a mix-up from the host, and I really apologize for that. Anybody watching that got caught out. I was caught out. I was sitting there like an idiot for a while. Ooh. So, I really do apologize. But it is coming up, so that will be on Sunday night Eastern time, and it should be a lot of fun. And, if they muck it up again, then I guess I will be angry. Everyone gets one. Everyone gets one. But... if they muck it up again, I will be a bit upset. But yeah.
Hell yeah. It's very cool. And I've been doing streams a lot more because, as I mentioned earlier, I got forced out of my job. So basically this is my job, at least for now, while I'm healing and trying to recover and whatnot. We'll see what the future holds later. but I'm trying to be more present, more active here, and also fundraise some, because theoretically YouTube does pay us a little. So I'll be doing a show tomorrow leading into Bad Science Sunday, just like I used to do back in the day when I could do Sunday nights regularly. We're going to be revisiting an old friend, Bishop Alan Didio of the Encounter Cult, whom we haven't seen since my 12-hour birthday stream years ago. He's the guy who thinks you have to literally die to be a member of his cult and be saved by Jesus. Like,
boy,
his whole thing. Oh, it's so wild. But he's not going super cult in this video. I haven't watched the whole thing, just the intro. But we touch on all the crazy. There's UFOs, there's flat earth, there's time travel. It'll be fun. I don't know if we're going to get all the way through it, because Maya's show comes on, and we all go over there to watch other bad science stuff, but it will be a great time. So please join us for that. Also, make sure you are subscribed to both our channels, but make sure you ring the bell, because I do have other live streams planned, and I sometimes go live randomly. Join memberships. Make sure you get in on membership streams whenever the hell those happen. There's much chaos. I'm still like reorganizing my entire life right now, so bear with me. But there's that. Thursdays I'm over on the Transpositions. That's another channel, also linked in the description and also in my links, betterthanember.com, where we do trans news, and I do the good news, because we all need good news. There's probably other things, but the main thing is, make sure you're subscribed on both channels so you can catch us for part 2 of this very amusing debate. Nailed it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's awesome that you're back on and doing stuff, though not awesome circumstances. I love that you're making the best out of it. But apart from that, I don't think we've got anything more to add, really. Can you think of anything else we need to go through? Apart from subscribe to Ember, because Ember's great, and you are approaching 2K, which is just fantastic and will be awesome. Let's get Ember to 2K. Let's do it.
I've been approaching 2K for over a year. So that's another issue.
Really?
Okay. My goodness, I got to Well, I have the numbers right here, actually. On I take a number, a weekly survey, if you will, and on January 5th, it was the first Sunday of the new year, I was at 1912, and that was down 2 from the week previous. There's more negatives on this sheet than positives. I tend to lose people more often than I gain people. It's been an ongoing issue ever since I started my transition. I was like, zoom, and then, hey, I'm transitioning, and then I lost half the damn community. Weirdly enough, almost like there's, people who are atheists but not humanists in our
lost
community.
No one important.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's
you
true.
lost nobody
but
important.
It is frustrating, because it seems like, I mean, like I said, there's more minuses than pluses on this sheet. So it seems like whatever I do, I just lose people. Yeah. But we have worked our way up from 1912. As of last Sunday, we were at 1980. It's slightly more than that now. I appreciate everybody who is here very, very, very much. And I hope you'll invite some friends, use the share button, because I would like to see this channel grow and do well, because it's not just about me, it's about the community. And I mean that literally. I drove 11 hours to Kentucky to give a 20-minute speech and then drove 13 hours back. That's how much I care about community. But also, if you want to support my work, if you want to keep me going, there's ways to do that. There's free ways, like, subscribe, share, tell friends, all those things. But if you have a couple extra bucks, you can join memberships for just 99 cents. You can support on Patreon and get early exclusive access to stuff over there. You can send, if you don't want to do a recurring donation, you can do a one-time thing through Super Chats here, through Ko-Fi and Venmo and all the things. Or if you don't care about my work and you just want to help me not die, the GoFundMe is specifically for my medical bills, nothing else. And I appreciate any help I can get on any of those things. Very, very much. Because I just started to like my life, and I'd like to, stay alive a little longer. So I appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's really hard for me to ask for money. So I got that whole thing out, but now I don't know what to say next. So I'll just wrap things up. Thank you all so much for joining. I appreciate it. We love doing these lives. You guys in the chat have thrown out some great ideas and jokes and all sorts of things, and we fucking love it. That's why we do lives. And I appreciate you all so much for being here and for joining us every week for our shenanigans. Y'all are the best. And as always, remember, you don't have to lay out a whole bunch of bullshit that's intellectually maybe not entirely on the up and up, only to finish with, "But my burning bosom, though, because you are better than religion." Good night.
Just like a spark that's breaking out, can't make a stop, can't turn back now.